Hey, what's up? This is Just Plain Nonsense.
I'm Michael.
And I'm Rob. Hey, so today we have a full house today, actually. But we have Jay Willie in the studio.
Hey.
We got Brittany Spears in the studio.
Oops, I did it again.
And today we're going to talk about...
And Michael, I'm here.
We already established that you were here, just like on the last one.
He already forgot.
You forgot that he was here?
Mm-hmm.
Go ahead.
Quit smiling at me, you weirdo. All right. So today we're basically going to talk about... since we have a house full of men here, it's going to be...
Wait, did you just assume our genders?
And cut. So today we're going to talk about romantic relationships from the male perspective. But a little disclaimer at the beginning. All of us love women, and everything that we say is going to be our own opinion. But if we do go over the line, just know that we're joking, because we don't actually we don't dislike women in any way. And it'd be nice if I could get an agreement on that.
This is going to be huge.
Well, I mean, yeah, it's not really a discriminative thing. It's not really, it's just kind of, hey, here's how we think. You know, there it is. And the platform isn't discriminative. It isn't really pro this or anti this. It's just what we think and and why we think the way we think.
Yeah, if there's any time that someone says, you know, all women do this, you know, obviously all women don't. So, you know, it's going to just be them getting in the moment and saying the wrong thing at the time.
Yeah, then we're going to go ahead and...
Which is very easy to do at times.
Right.
Yeah.
We're going to go ahead and disclaim that now at the beginning, though, so that whenever we say women do this, we're not saying all women. We're talking about specifically the ones that we are referring to which the ones we are referring.
Our personal experiences with women as the men that we are individually.
See, now you get yourself conscious about grammar.
Yeah, that's because you corrected me earlier.
Did I?
Well, you didn't correct me specifically, but it was that whole both and both thing.
There's no L in both, Rob.
You just said both.
I know.
There's no L in both.
You need to wash your mouth out.
There's no R in wash.
Wash it. Wash both of them.
What you got in there, Wash?
All right, you're done talking for the rest of the podcast. Okay, so we're going to pass this over to Jay Willie here. He's the coordinator of this specific episode. So this is also I can't remember it.
Romantic relationships from a male perspective.
So this is romantic relationships from the male perspective, sponsored by Jay Willie.
All right. Well, I looked up a bunch of stuff from a lot of different sources, and I was looking up just general questions, you know, about relationships that we could answer. Looked up some common questions that women had for men, and then just other things that, you know, irritate either women or men about relationships. I figured we could hit on those and talk about those and, you know, see what our opinion is on those things.
Okay, that sounds good.
Yeah, and on a side note, we do plan on having an episode in the future where we have the female perspective come in and discuss the same thing, and we can...
Right, because we want to hear both sides of it.
Yeah. This isn't a guys only podcast, and we don't want it to come off that way. So we kind of want to get both perspectives on this. So there'll be a later episode. Expect to see that in the future. We're going to have a collective group of females with us to discuss their side of it.
So go ahead, Jay Willie.
Alrighty, I think a good one to start off with is love enough to make a relationship last forever.
And Brett, you had something to say about this earlier, didn't you?
Actually, I did. Okay, I'll do yes and no. I'll say yes because love is probably one of the most powerful things ever. If you love somebody so much, you know, in someone's eyes, that person can do no wrong. But also love can be blinding, in my experience. I don't know if it was love or deceit or what, but you could also love someone so much that you don't really actually see who that person really is. So really, I'm kind of on the fence about that one. Anybody else want to intervene?
I went through that situation, but it wasn't love; it was lust, and that definitely blinded me to her personality and the type of person she was.
For me, I would say that no, it is not. I think it is a factor you must have to make a relationship last, but I definitely don't think
it's one of many.
Yes, like I said, it's a factor,
right?
But I don't believe that it's enough alone just to love somebody. If you can love a lot of people, a lot of things, but that doesn't mean it's good for you or that you're compatible.
Right.
You know?
Well, everybody has needs. It's like,
Right.
and I'm not talking about only sexual needs. Like you need to be challenged. You need to be appreciated. You need to be like, there's so many different things that go on top of just that.
Right. And
However, love is the basis for all of those things.
love is what bonds us.
Right.
Not just to people, but things and anything. Love is it's just another word for, that bond. So, I mean, you can love somebody and it just be a disaster. I mean, I've seen people stay in
That's
relationships
true.
that are garbage because, well, they have that bond. They can't see themselves without them. But so, in my opinion, before I pass on to the next person to answer their perspective on it, I'd say no, it is not enough.
Yeah, I agree with you.
What about you, Jay Willie?
Well, I mean, I think it's needed, obviously, in the beginning. And it's also the reason why if you do have problems, you'll talk about it and work it out. And it seems like the reason that people end up splitting after long-term relationships is because the love has gone out, and
Right.
they can't find a way to get that love back. And they can't find a way to work out the problems that they had before. And they have all the same problems, and some of them might be exaggerated now, but the love is gone. And so their relationship's done.
Right. Yeah. So once you lose the love, that was the glue that was holding everything together. And then now all those problems were there originally, but now the love is gone, the glue is gone. So it starts to fall apart.
So in other words, you need it, but it's not enough to necessarily hold a relationship together.
Right.
But you do need it to hold a relationship together, but
I don't know,
it's
'cause
not the only factor.
There's plenty of relationships that you see that seem really harmful. And I mean, there are some that are really harmful to each other, but they never break up because, they love each other, And it's like, I mean, some of the worst they can think about is like, a guy putting hands on his significant other,
Right.
and you think, why don't you report him? Why don't you, move away? Why don't you find somebody else? And it's because I love him,
There's a lot more that goes on than just love there though too, because it's like a lot of people, it's dependency, and this goes both ways.
Yeah.
Between men and women, it's dependency. You're afraid because you've never had anything different, and a lot of times if you were raised that way, that's the only thing you know. So you're kind of that's familiar territory to you.
One thing I like to note, and this is kind of society, you see this a lot in culture, where it's if a guy hits a woman, that's always the reference point. Oh, it's so horrible, and it is horrible. But you notice it's always held to a worse standard than when a woman hits a man.
Right.
And if they're going to preach equality, then you know what? It should be equally as destructive and damaging the
Right.
relationship. Now, of course, on my own perspective, I believe that men are physically stronger than women, so can be more of a devastating thing when a man hits a woman. However, I think people ignore how often it goes on with abuse of women hitting their men and being violent and not being able to communicate effectively in a healthy manner, and it gets ignored. And I wasn't saying anything against you on that, but it never gets brought up. It's always, when a man hits a woman, it's like, oh, that dude's a jerk, and he is. But then when the woman does it, it's like, oh, she's just being crazy,
Right.
It's no big, they don't take it as seriously. in
Or you
culture
get that question, what did the guy do to deserve it?
Yeah. Was he cheating?
Yeah.
He must have been looking at her butt, or something.
I deployed with a full-time cop, and he obviously he wasn't a cop when we went over there, but they had a problem where there'd be the same people over and over and over calling in for domestic abuse, and the women would never leave, but they'd call and say, "Hey, he's hitting me again," and standard operating procedure for a lot of precincts is to go there and arrest the man because they say the man had the opportunity to leave and he didn't, right?
Yeah.
And in a lot of those situations, they were hitting each other. The guy would have scratches all over his face and his arms or whatever. And, he was like, they both have the opportunity just to get out of the house and leave. So if that's going to be the reason why we always arrest the man, I'm going to start arresting both of them. So every time that he would respond to a domestic violence call, then he would arrest both of them. And the domestic violence calls, in his area is like plummeted.
Yeah.
It got down to almost nothing. And like the repeat offenders, like they stopped calling.
It. That's
they
good.
stopped calling. So I mean, they might be beating the crap out of each other at home.
Because there's no
But not
consequence.
reporting it.
There's no
Not
consequence
reporting
for
it.
the woman to call,
But,
so why
yeah.
not? It's
So
Right.
I mean, if there's a woman out there that's slapping a dude around and he returns the favor, then she'd call the police afterwards. And she'd get what she wanted.
Right.
So yeah. Anyway,
Yeah, so if she was legitimately scared, she'd call, but if she's...
Who didn't turn their volume down?
That would be
Allegedly
Amanda.
our biggest fan who's sabotaging the show.
So sorry.
You know what? I think she was sent here to destroy us from the inside.
She didn't want to hear the male
She's an
perspective.
enigma.
I put it on Do Not Disturb, I swear.
You might think it's a coincidence. The female center here.
She's destroying the podcast.
The only chick here tonight. She sabotaged us.
1 second.
Who sent you?
Are we allowed to continue yet?
Yeah.
Are you
I
positive?
was turning my volume off.
All right, so the
Sorry.
the next question: can a relationship survive political differences?
I think it can if you're mature about it. However, I mean that can go both ways. Really, it depends on the people because like if one person might want one type of thing, the other might want another, and that one political direction, might split them.
I think for sure it's just another obstacle, and it depends on where they are with how important politics is as a priority, and how it,
Right.
it can. I mean, like me and Hey Girl, we have a lot of similar political views. I don't think I should really go over it right now, but we have there are differences in our political ideology. We're different people, but it doesn't ruin our relationship. It's just something else that we can, because of how we mesh in our relationship, we can discuss it, and it doesn't hurt us. And I think it depends on the people in the relationship. I think it's just another obstacle, but yes. I mean, to answer the question, yes, I think that you can be different in political ideas.
It's a really good way to test your maturity level.
Yeah.
Well,
Because you're going to deal with people with different viewpoints everywhere you go.
Right.
So inside your relationship, you should have a lot more in common. However, that one it just depends on the people in the relationship if it's going to destroy you or not.
Right, and it is good to have those differing viewpoints because you have those different sides that like one person may have one idea, another person might have another, and that just makes you stronger.
Yeah, we actually had, ironically enough, we had an argument today over which founding father was better.
Oh yeah, you told me about
Yeah,
that.
and it was a fun one. Like it wasn't like, well, you know what, we're divorcing now. It was just kind of like no, and then kind of a political joke at each other, and that was about it.
But how'd you guys just not automatically agree on Jefferson, though?
Because she needs to learn, educate herself more. Just kidding, sorry. That's funny because that's who I was defending. He is the best founding father. But anyway, sorry. Your thoughts? Does it affect the relationship?
I would say yes and no. I mean, it's like Rob said, as long as you're adults about it and you don't insult each other and you can have a decent conversation and it doesn't cause massive fights in the household. I think it can. I mean, as long as you're mature about it. Me, myself, I'm not really into politics.
I'm right there with you. I can't stand them.
I mean, I vote for whoever I think the lesser of the two evils are, because in my opinion, all politicians are D-bags, but I don't know. I didn't vote this year because I didn't like either one. She scared me, and he had bad hair. So I didn't vote this year. So politics and relationships, for me, I try to just kind of keep them to the side. So
Then it really shouldn't affect your relationship too much if you're not that passionate about it,
Mm-hmm.
Unless there were four parties that were on enough tickets to win the election, though. You could have voted for one of the other two.
Oh, were there really? Oh.
Yeah. Anyway, no, I think
Yeah, let's not turn this to a political podcast.
Yeah, I had to cut enough of that out on the Bro Time podcast. I cut out 45 minutes of that.
Well, as you know, I'm super into politics, so we went on a rant, but I'm glad you called that out because
cut out everything I said about politics. Every
got it.
single thing.
You got it. I'm going to even cut out just the word politics. So it'll be like, cut out everything I said about everything. That's it.
Okay.
Good.
Anyway, I think a relationship can survive political differences, but I think and the best course of action would be to have as close to similar views as possible on something like that. I think Mike hit on it. It's how important politics are in the house.
Yeah, that's actually a very good point.
Yeah.
I completely agree
If
with
it's
that.
going to come up a lot, I think it's going to degrade the relationship pretty quickly.
Right.
If you guys have differing views, especially on certain things. It seems like depending on how far left or right you are, you can see the same exact thing and think a completely different thing about it.
Oh yeah, because you can be on different spectrums of the left and right. It's not as simple as, or you.
Yeah. And Same question, except for religious views. What do you guys think about that?
I actually think it's a bigger obstacle
I would say
because
maybe
your entire morality is based off of that.
maybe it depends on how drastically different your viewpoints are.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Well, like in America, you can have somebody, the major religion in America is Christianity, right?
Right.
So I'll use that as an example because we know, you'll see so many different denominations of Christianity, so many, and which can change. There can be a huge difference in how they live, those, even in the same religion. So it's good to find people, unless you just don't really care that much. But if it's important to both of you, then yeah, I think that's a huge game changer because your morality is pretty much structured on your religion if you have one.
Yeah, I think that.
And how you raise your kids. You're going to raise your kid. If you have, hey, what are we going to teach our children? And then that's a big deal.
The more different that it is, the worse it's going to be.
Yeah, I agree.
If you have, someone who's just hardcore atheist and one person that wants to go to church every single Sunday, they're going to be upset they're at home. The person going to church is going to be upset they're at home. And then when you have kids, is that atheist going to be all right with you taking the kids to church and that kind of stuff?
Right.
Right.
What is something that most relationships lack?
Trust.
Yeah. I haven't been in most relationships, but I would assume that is definitely one of
We
them.
live in a digital world, and I think you probably know where I'm going with this. The almighty cell phone. And what's the most thing you see in someone's home? You see it out on the street when people are walking around with their families. Everybody's staring at their phone. Everybody's texting. Everybody's, Snapchatting or taking selfies or...
And then you're like, who are you talking to?
Exactly. Sitting around the dinner table, everybody's staring at a screen. But then you've got that whole, who are you talking to? Who are you texting? It's kind of late, isn't it? Who is that? Who just blew up your phone? What are you doing? Who are you calling? There's all that kind of stuff too. And if there's no trust, it's just not going to work because there's always going to be that whole, who is that? Where are you going? Who's on the phone? Who are you texting? It's 2:00 in the morning. It's noon. Who's up at noon? Why? It
Who's up at noon?
happens, right? It happens.
Well,
you
yeah,
know?
I also see a problem with when you're on a date with your spouse or significant other that you're dating or whatever. Like they'll be Instagramming and then they got to post a picture on Snapchat and they got to post a picture on Facebook and they're spending so much time on their phone talking about the date that they're not actually engaging on the date exclusively with you. Like you're not interacting the way you should. You don't have their undivided attention, and that drives me absolutely nuts. It's like, oh, cool, we're on a date. Whenever you get done with your post about our date, you want to continue with our date. Or I hate when scrolling when I'm talking to them on their phone. Like,
I saw a Facebook post today that it was basically saying that like people who are happy in their relationships don't post about it on Facebook, or they post about it a lot less. The people who do post about it are the ones who are insecure about it and they need reassurance from other people.
I'm sure that's
about their
I'm
insecurities.
sure there's a lot of truth to that in certain things. But I'm sure there's people that just they have an addiction to posting on.
Right. Well, I'm talking about just about relationships specifically.
No, but I mean like with that too. I mean, I'm sure that's true with a lot of cases, but
Yeah,
I'm sure
but
it's
why-
not 100%.
Well, no, nothing is ever 100%.
Yeah. But I want to specify on that.
Right.
That's the only reason, the only time that happens. And,
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
I think Mike hit on what I was going to say because it's saying, what do most relationships lack? And, it doesn't necessarily mean your own. It just means, around in society, I feel like what Mike was saying was quality time.
right.
Like you have too many distractions. I mean, you're distracted all day at work. You get home, and both of you do opposite things. I mean, you're doing the same exact thing. You'd be sitting right next to each other. Both of you are on your phone, but you're not engaging with each other.
Right.
And I feel like a lot of relationships would be better, even if it was a friendship. Having one-on-one quality time, being able to look at each other in the eye and talk to each other about
Yeah.
more intimate things.
That doesn't happen hardly at all anymore.
Yeah, exactly.
No.
I remember I was hanging out with Amanda one night, and Shane had fallen asleep, and we were talking about like some of the stuff that I haven't talked about in a long time, and it was like really deep, like stuff about the world, and like it was something that I missed. It was really nice to have a friend that I could like talk to about that kind of stuff. Mm-hmm. It doesn't happen very often. And it's really nice when it does.
Friendship's really important to establish in any aspect of life, and that's this thing with relationships, whether it be a friendship or you know, a significant other is people don't communicate anymore. They're all about
Right.
what's on their screen. It's like there's more. They're so social. So it appears on their social media, but they're really not interacting socially very.
Yeah, it's all a
effectively.
lie.
There's
Yeah.
so
Well,
many.
not all of it,
yeah.
but most
Yeah.
of it probably is.
There's so many couples out there that are too reliant on social media. You know, oh, he's so amazing. Oh, she's my queen. Oh, look at us. We're so happy. And then behind closed doors, it's like, shut up, woman, and make me a sandwich. And, you know, and then 5 minutes later, they take a selfie. Oh, we're so happy together. And then you see him on the news the
Because
next
they
day.
highlight
'cause-
the happy moments.
Yeah,
but-
exactly.
That makes me think of that picture that I saw. This dude, he posted on Facebook, and he said, anytime my wife and I are in an argument, she takes a selfie of us. I think that'll end the argument
Well, you
pretty
know,
fast.
there's people on my wife's side of the family, her cousin and her cousin's husband now, when they were dating, every time they would get in an argument, they would force each other to hold hands. And it would crush the anger time down. Like they would, so that when they were arguing and they were in the car, they had a rule where they'd have to like hold hands.
That's really smart.
Yeah, and I mean, they would get over fights. There would be no grudge. It would be almost like, boom. Just so when you're in relationships, every relationship's different. So you need to have different tactics, and you know, because they may not work for somebody else. Because I might do that and just squeeze the crap out of my wife's hand. But you know,
Her hands are
so-
little, too.
Yeah, I know. I'd to break it. It's like 5 little chopsticks on a freaking.
That's racist.
There are marriage challenges out there that, you know, for 90 days, you're going to sleep with your spouse every day for 90 days, you know.
Sleep
And-
with them, or like just sleep next to them?
You know what I mean.
Do the deed, Rob.
Gotcha.
Become intimate with your spouse.
Know your spouse biblically.
Yes, exactly. And what that ends up doing is that makes it so, you know, you're not going to do that if you're upset with each other.
Right.
And so you're not going to, you know, let the sun set on an argument. You're going to get, you know, you're going to get around that, or you're going to find some way to, you know, become intimate and not angry.
Right. It'd be
And-
nice to set that stuff up. Like right when you get together, you're like, listen, if we get mad or whatever, we're going to do these. You know,
Well-
we can try these couple things.
Well, I mean, I might not necessarily recommend, you know, sleeping with each other right when you get together.
Well, you know what I mean.
For 90 days
no,
straight.
No, I'm not saying actually do it, but set up the rule
Yeah.
that if we do get mad at each other, we need to
Hold
make
hands.
sure to do this. Yeah.
Yeah.
Something more along the lines of holding hands.
Yeah, people do that challenge, and you know the relationship becomes completely different by the end of it, because you know they find ways to work around all the stuff that they haven't been able to work around before.
Right.
You know, and they end up talking about it's like, you know, with us sitting next to each other on the couch, not engaging with each other, and getting to the bed, and all of a sudden, you know, it's time to get it on. I mean,
Right.
you know, it's a rough transition. It feels like it's rougher for women than for men sometimes to do, you know, transition from not engaging with each other to, you know, any sexual activity.
Right.
Yeah, I feel like that emotional connection with women is even more important, because I do think there's a difference in the way we think, you know. And yeah, for me, I could be completely mad and arguing while I'm doing that, and it's okay for me. You know, I'm good to go.
Yeah.
You know, which I think that says more for women as far as, you know, it's more deeper of a meaning. You know, to have to, you know, they want to make sure they connect before that. In not all cases. I mean, there's you know, once again, but
Right.
yeah, generally, yeah. I mean, especially in most common healthy relationships, they want things to be good when they do. Yeah. But for guys, it's like, yeah, whatever. And I'll yell at you while I'm doing it. You know, I don't care.
I mean, hashtag not all men. Do you think that if someone cheats, the relationship is over?
Well, I mean,
I'm gonna let Michael take this one first.
that definitely depends on the person and how forgiving they are.
And how hot the person is that they cheated with.
Well, I mean, everybody's got their own relationship standards.
What about your own personal relationships?
Okay, with me and my wife, she's a better person than I am, because we've actually had this discussion before, joking around, kind of, but kind of serious.
Oh yeah, you and I talked about this
We
as
did,
well.
yeah. If my wife cheated on me, I would leave her, hands down, because I'm not that forgiving. But I recognize that. She's made it clear to me that if I cheat on her, one time she'd probably forgive me. Now, not giving me the okay, but that's how good of a person she is. Is that like? It's not that her love is better. It's just that some people can get past certain things and some cannot. And I think it depends on the people involved in the relationship on both sides. And it's not really in this case, it's not really a man-woman thing. It's just past experience, present ideas,
Right.
and how they mesh together, you know? I don't really, I mean, it's an either or. I think that's once again based off of the two individuals in the relationship.
Right. I don't know if I've never had anybody cheat on me, but I think
I have.
I don't
Many
think
times.
I don't think I would be able to. I don't think my relationship would be able to continue because immediately I would feel like the trust. I wouldn't be able to trust anything after that.
Yeah. Well, for me, I had a situation where, and I'm not going to give her too much radio time on this, but an ex that I had, when I came back from deployment, she told me that she cheated on me with a very close friend of mine who I served with, and I was super upset. But the way that I think is I would never let her see me in pain at all. So even during my reaction, I had a pretty bad initial reaction.
That's
going
a
up the
rough
elevator.
relationship to be in.
Yeah, and I was, I'm gone serving my freaking country, and she's, whatever. But then I told her on that spot, I said, "Get out, we're done." There was no discussion. There was no chance of forgiveness. That's just who I am. I'm like, if I can't trust you at the most vulnerable time of my life, that was the test. You're gone. And she cried and even threatened to kill herself because she was super emotional and drunk. And I said, then don't make a mess, because she was threatening to jump off the balcony. Because that was my mechanism. I would not let her see that she hurt me. I would not.
Right.
And then when she left, that's when I cried, like a But that was the point: is that everybody shows their vulnerability in different ways, and certain people can forgive in certain ways. And for me, on my exterior, I seem very tough in relationships, but it's because of the fact that I'm protecting myself from the most vulnerable part of myself. And in different relationships, people can bounce back from cheating,
Right.
better than others can, And I feel like for me, it's a hell no. Like once it happens to me, you're gone. Like the first time.
I feel like I would be the same way, but I think it depends. Like I would have to actually go through that to be able to make up my mind.
Right. And, it really depends on the relationship.
Right.
Yeah, as far as what I see is like in general, people have their reasons for cheating, and so it really depends on the reasoning behind what happens. Like if it happens where you're around somebody every day, and you're lacking something in your relationship at home, and then you find that thing in somebody,
Somebody
at
else.
work or in
Right.
a club or whatever, and you're getting that need fulfilled from somebody else, then it ends up becoming something where it goes down the line, and you keep taking a step further and further and further, and you shouldn't.
Right.
And then if they end up cheating after that, it seems a lot more forgivable than, I don't want to be in this relationship anymore. I'm just going to go sleep with somebody,
Right. Well, that's what happens when people when the problems come, they let the time elapse and they they let other people fill that void instead of fixing the relationship that they have issues with.
Yeah. And
Sometimes it's easier to do that.
I mean, cheating usually, that's a huge hit on the relationship. And, if you're unable to get over that and you can never get the trust back, then the relationship's over,
Right.
But if it's something that you can forgive and you can get over, you can build that trust back, I think, the relationship's not necessarily over. And there are some people that, they go through something like that and then the relationship ends up better at the end. I never advocate cheating, but I'm just saying there's, it was a struggle that they went through, and it was like, well, if one of the biggest things that women miss in relationships is communication. So, if this guy's communicating with her, then, she's like, well, he's been communicating with me. I felt like someone was listening,
Right. Right.
And then in the end, that guy changes and ends up learning how to communicate better with their significant other. And, the relationship can last and get better.
A lot of problems in relationships I feel like can be solved with communication. Because I think that's
absolutely, yeah. That's the first step for sure.
Right. Right.
Well,
Brett, go ahead.
Obviously, that's how you fix all the problems that's driving the wedge that, causes people to feel comfortable enough to cheat.
Yeah,
Because they always try to justify cheating. It drives me nuts because, he doesn't do this anymore, or she doesn't do this anymore. And it's always an excuse for you stepping out of the line of the relationship instead of showing the respect to the person by breaking it off.
Right. Well, if somebody's telling you that, your first question should be, have you told them?
Yeah.
Have you told your significant other that they make you feel this way?
And
that should be the first step.
They're like, no,
You
they
tell
should
everybody
know.
except them. Yeah, they should know.
Yeah.
Nobody can read anybody's minds. Nobody should know anything.
It's kind of like how I was talking about before in one of the earlier podcasts about how there is labels so people can justify their actions.
Right.
Like with men and women both have them, like, oh, she's crazy or he's controlling. And most of the time it's not true. Sometimes it is, but most of the time it's not. You're finding a label instead of actually breaking down and looking at the problem and trying to fix it. It's just to justify your actions, and so you give an extreme label.
Yeah, and you go extreme because you're really emotional about it at that time.
Yeah.
And then after a while, you're like, you know what? They weren't actually
Oh, that's why you cheated. He's controlling. Oh, that makes sense.
Right.
No, it doesn't. You should have went and discussed the relationship and broke it off. If it was that bad, you should have broke it off. You know?
Right.
Or same thing. If she's crazy, LOL, which I find it hard to believe that the majority of an entire gender is crazy. That's people just justifying their actions.
Right. Brett, you haven't weighed in on this one. You got anything to say?
Oh, I got lots to say about it. I mean, this
Let's
is
hear
a
it.
very, very powerful and irritating topic to me for lots of reasons. I've experienced this on many different levels. As a child in a nearly broken home that survived, a cheating incident, watching my parents go through all that and how they built, their trust back, and then if a relationship is strong enough, and like I said, and there's communication and you're upfront and honest about it and you don't try to hide it with, the first time you lie about something, you got to cover it up with another lie.
Right.
And another lie. And another lie. And it never stops. But I'm kind of on the same page as you. If someone walked up to me, my significant other, whatever, and said, well, this happened, I'd be like, well, we're done. Goodbye. I mean...
For the listener, when you say you mean me, right?
Yes,
Okay,
yes,
'cause
I'm
they see
sorry.
your point.
Michael.
I can't hear you point.
Yeah. But...
I think it all depends on the situation, though, because you can't just say we're done based on.
Well, you can do whatever you
anything.
want. Your people in
Well,
a
you know what I mean,
In a
like-
consensual relationship, you can do whatever you want.
Right, but I mean, like, justifiably, you can't just be like, we're done because, like, you felt hurt or whatever. Like, it depends on the circumstances.
But then again, there are circumstances, and once again, I'm not condoning cheating, so don't take this the wrong way. There are circumstances where people just fall out of love, and stuff happens, and yeah, it's a really shitty way to do it, but some people see it as a way out. But I mean, like I said, it's a really shady way to do it, but people do it, and they see it as a way out, unfortunately. And then there are times when people just fall in love with other people. I mean, and like I said, I'm not condoning cheating. I'm just saying it happens. And go ahead.
Oh, sorry. Well, for me, I feel it's a lot like those douchebags at the grocery store or Walmart that after they get done using their cart, they just leave it in a front row parking spot so people can't park there, and they just leave it there instead of going through the effort of putting it back to where it belongs. I feel like instead of putting people back to where they belong in a healthy life, they just destroy them with cheating because it's the easy thing to do instead of doing what you're supposed to do. Translating the relationship thing, instead of restoring them back to a single person, you just damage them first by just leaving them there to be and just inconvenience the crap out of everyone in their life around them. The friendships they've developed in their relationships together as mutual friends, everything around it. Just have the decency and stop being lazy and face your emotions and face your fears and tell that person, hey, I'm not in love with you anymore. Sucks. Maybe not in those words, but talk to them.
Be a little more
Right.
tactful.
Yeah. I hate you.
I mean, like,
boring.
once you damage a person, think of it as like a glass cup. It's spider webbed, and you have pretty much put a dent in that person. You have ruined so many things for that person. You could have made it so difficult for them to trust anybody anymore. And I mean, people don't realize that when they step out like that, it really does do a lot of damage, and not just at home. It does. I mean, mentally, it can really screw up a person. So, but yes, you can come back from it. It's difficult.
Oh, yeah, it was like a lot of work, years and years and years of
Yeah.
work. So I have a question, trailing off of what Brett was saying. If a couple does fall out of love, what are your thoughts on how to counteract that, like to bring it back?
Start dating again like you just got together.
Like
First
actually
time.
go out on
Like,
dates and stuff?
Yeah, communicate to each other. Hey, let's start dating again. Let's start courting each other again, and then start and try to instead of going through the daily routine of all right, well, let's go to Walmart, get our groceries, come back, get out of that
out of the
motion. That's
routine.
not that non-exciting routine. Get into go somewhere different that you don't normally go in routine, and actually start dating again and courting each other.
That's a really good idea.
Actually hit on it earlier, that 90-day challenge of
Yeah.
being intimate with your partner, every single night.
Right, holding hands. And
And that depends on their
going,
lifestyle. If
going
you
the
have
extra step.
two conflicting work schedules,
You find a way. You still do it.
Meet them at work.
Like, you find a way. Because
Well, some people you have to 'cause there's
what
no-
that does, it makes it so that other person is your number one priority. It doesn't matter that you have conflicting schedules. It doesn't matter that you only see each other 1 hour a day. That 1 hour a day is going to be dedicated to that.
That's a very good point. See, that's how I see the world.
Unless you got, I'm just trying to think of circumstances where that particular tactic is great and certain ones where it wouldn't work. Like if you got 4 kids and you got 1 hour a day,
Well, I
You're
mean,
gonna have to schedule a sex night.
No,
You know,
no, no.
I mean, not to be blunt, but I mean,
By making sure that that happens, you show that your partner that they're number one. You know,
Right.
you have all these kids, and you're going to put those kids to the side, and you know they're going to ruin the house for however long they're going to ruin the house, because you're going to dedicate that time to them every single day.
see, I'm completely on board with that. Like that's how I view the whole entire world.
Right.
I get in trouble all the time because I don't do work, because I don't do the work that I'm supposed to do, or I make decisions that take me away from doing my responsibilities because I have decided that people are more important to me than anything else on the entire planet. I would rather be homeless and jobless with friends than have like the most successful career on the planet. And based on what you were saying is you find a way, you make a way for that to happen. I don't care what happens. Like I'll go and I'll pay 4 different babysitters to watch my kids if I can only spend 1 hour with the person that I'm supposed to be with.
yeah, that's what you're saying.
It's like it doesn't matter. I will get creative, incredibly creative to find a way to put this person, if they're feeling devalued or if they're feeling like they're not enough, or if they're feeling that they're not enough for me, I will find a way. It doesn't matter what it takes to make sure that they know they are number one.
And with that, you can be intimate or be romantic without having sex, because if you got a 1-year-old and maybe a 3-year-old and you got an hour a day, that becomes very challenging. I'm just trying to think of circumstances we haven't really named off yet, you know.
Right.
But yeah, I mean, but as far as interact with that person and give them that 1 hour, you can find a way to give them that 1 hour without it necessarily being sex, you know.
Yeah,
And not
they-
everybody's drive is the same too. You know?
they
I mean,
just want to know that you care.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter what the activity is.
I don't think it necessarily. I mean, and of course that would work for a lot of people. But I think as long as you, like you were saying, prioritize the people that you're trying to fix a relationship
Yes.
with. Prioritize then that. Yeah. I think-
Prioritize your relationships over everything else. Like
Agreed.
your work should not come first. It doesn't matter. Like I'm going to lose my job. Who cares? You're going to lose your wife.
There's plenty of jobs out there.
Exactly. But you only have one wife. It's like that person, she needs to know, or in the woman's case, her husband, they need to know that they're number one in your life, regardless of whatever else is out there. It doesn't matter.
But I mean, that goes both ways, not just on the male, it goes on the woman too. Like the man should put every effort into showing her that she's pretty much the only most important person to him on the planet.
Right.
And she should do the exact same thing.
Right.
It's 50-50. It's not a one-way street. If the guy's putting in all the effort and the woman's putting in none, or vice versa, something's wrong. You got to start over.
My dad actually, he had a really good analogy for that. He said, basically what he said is you both put in 100%. And then whenever one of you can't give 100%, the other person makes up for it by 150, 160, whatever, until that the other person can start putting that in.
See, I heard an old saying from an old family member that was, "Women are like elephants.
Oh no, I've heard this before.
Every year they get bigger and bigger. And they don't forget crap." Just kidding, ladies.
Or
But you know
what I've heard though is I've heard, why buy the cow when you get the sex for free?
It's actually the milk, but you know.
No, that was the point. Yeah. I messed up the saying on purpose
Oh.
because you're having sex with a cow.
God, Brittany.
Oops, I did it again.
Anybody else notice how heteronormative this conversation was? I kept saying partner. You guys keep assuming that men and women are the only ones that get together.
I was like, heteronormative. What the crap does that mean?
Don't be throwing those snowflake labels at me.
Anyway,
Back to relationships, consensual relationships.
When a man and a woman... I'm kidding.
And it was in that one right there. All right, let's
All
go
right.
ahead, Jay Willie. It's up to you.
anyway. So the next set of questions that I have was looking up, general questions from women to men, right? Why don't men like to cuddle?
Some do.
I know this is a
I'm
general
most
question.
definitely one of them.
This is a general question, why don't men like to cuddle?
So in general, why don't men like to cuddle?
If it's something that's been asked, on plenty of different places, because I looked up a lot of different sources for these, and some of the ones that were popping up on all the different places I
Was
went.
about cuddling?
Yeah. I mean, yeah.
I can't-
I wrote down some of them. So.
I can't answer that question because I don't know why. I don't understand why you wouldn't want to. That's one of my favorite things to do. I just want to be physically close to whoever.
I
I'm with.
do enjoy cuddling from time to time.
I'm not a big fan of cuddling. I mean, I do and I don't, but I mean, cuddling's fun for like 5 minutes, and then it needs to get like a little more.
Some do, some don't for many reasons. I think you have to ask somebody who doesn't like to cuddle.
Yeah, it's hard to believe with 4 guys here that nobody likes to cuddle.
Well,
Everybody likes to cuddle, I mean.
To be fair, if I'm mad enough, I don't like to cuddle. If I'm mad.
I think that would make me stop being mad.
I don't
It
like.
depends on if I'm truly mad.
Yeah, if you're
Not if I
really,
just wanna
if you're
be
really
mad.
angry, it's really hard to be in physical
Yeah.
contact with somebody.
Yeah.
Especially with that much
You don't
cuddling.
want to be squeezed.
Yeah.
Plus, I mean, if it's really hot, I don't like to cuddle.
Or if you just
No.
ate Taco Bell and you're farting, I don't want to cuddle you.
Really?
I mean, there's whatever. I don't know. I don't like this question. Who knows?
Well, let's move on to another one.
So I guess you summed up to farts and being angry. Right? That's good reasons.
And sweaty.
Okay. I guess we won't talk about the real reason.
I wish the listeners could see the look.
Throwing shade.
that they just gave.
I guess since we're not going to talk about our true feelings, I'll just get something surfacey. Like, why do men leave the toilet seat up?
Why not?
Why do
not?
women want it down?
Yeah, why not? I don't think that their preference is more important or priority to ours.
I mean,
You know?
there's still a rim on there. They could sit on that. It's
There-
just a little smaller.
There was, I could give it, okay, so I actually have a story on this. I work at a prison, as we all know, right? So, the majority of a prison environment is men, especially, at a male prison, right? Makes sense because strip searching and, standards and laws and, practices, blah, blah, blah. So anyway, we have females there too, which is great, whatever. But when I got relieved from one of my towers, this girl came in there and she was actually mad at me because I left the toilet seat up. And so I explained to her, she's like, oh, the toilet, like she didn't know I left it up. I'm the only one in the tower, right? She's relieving me. She's like, who left the toilet seat up? Trying to initiate her frustration and, and I was like, I did because it makes sense. Because this place is 80% men and people pee, and it's dark in here, and people pee standing up. So wouldn't it make more sense for cleanliness, since there's mostly men here, to leave the seat up? Matter of fact, when you're done with it, can you please stop leaving the toilet seat down and put it up? Make it easier for everyone else. But I have to look at it. Okay, so do I. Why do you pull priority?
You know
over
what? You know what though? Since a lot of dudes
because
do,
the gentleman's, but now the gentleman thing is like getting out. Like now holding a door open is offensive. So to some, so it's it's like
back to that snowflake.
yeah. Well, it's just, I don't want to get into political stuff here, but the thing is certain things offend certain people, and certain things don't offend other people. But the fact that you're offended by this doesn't change my perspective, and vice versa. So if you don't like the toilet seat up, put it down and use it. Use your toilet. You're free to use the toilet how you want to. And when I'm done, I'm going to leave it up and put it up. I don't care that you left it down. I'll put it up. No big deal. Now, if you live in a house with somebody, then it's different because you two can agree ahead of time on what you prefer,
Right. But this is a workplace.
Yeah. So it really just depends on where you're at and depends on who you're with. But
Right. Well, you would think that, since what you said is basically if it's down, it's dark, they don't really look where they're peeing, you would think that she would prefer it to be up. That way there wasn't pee all over it when she had to put it down and sit on it.
because it depends on the environment. But also, like I said, just be responsible for yourself. Put the toilet, if you like
That's
it down,
very true.
look first and put it down. I put it up. It's no big deal. No preference over the other. Like I said, I'm not pro guy over women. I'm definitely not a feminist. I'm just like true equality. No empowerment of anybody, no decision. Just look at it and go, I want to use the toilet. Is it ready for me to use? There it is. No one's being catered to. No one's has an expectation above the other to make things nice for the other one. Just there it is.
Right. I
So
actually
that's my thing. To conclusion, it annoys me. If you don't like it, I'll leave it up if I want to.
I have a story about that too. We had a party at my house a long time ago, and this girl came out of the bathroom, but she was mad at me because I lifted the toilet seat up
How dare you?
after I used it, and she was mad at me, and I'm like, I live in a house full of guys. I don't ever put the toilet seat
And
down.
it's your house.
Right, it was my house. But I was like, I don't ever put the toilet seat down, so it's not like I didn't do it on purpose.
Yeah, it's such a stigma that people will actually go into other people's house and be, hey, you left the toilet seat up? Yeah.
Yeah, there's 4 guys who live here.
So?
We all leave the toilet seat up.
Did you want to use it? I can show you how to put the seat down. Whatever. Anyway, sorry.
Yeah, that was my story.
Sorry.
I really don't care if it's up or down. Sometimes I like to sit down to pee,
I don't care either. I just don't want to be,
But I'll check it
carved
first.
at for it. Yeah.
Yeah.
Same here. Every time I look at something that's as disgusting as a toilet before I use it. Anyway, you know what I mean?
You see Shane's judgmental face when you said you sit down to pee.
Sometimes I do.
Maybe just stop judging.
I don't care if you
I
judge
sit
me.
down
You
to
know
pee
what?
sometimes.
Like I said, I'm all about independent civil liberties. If you want to pee sitting down, bro, you do it.
I'm going to. Sometimes
Exactly.
I don't feel like standing up. Sometimes I'm too tired. I'm sleepy in the morning, and I'm like, I don't feel like standing up
That's
to pee.
normally when I sit down to pee is in the morning.
See?
You know?
Sometimes I'll pee in the shower, too.
It's your life,
yeah.
bro. Your life. Go for it.
Exactly.
Some more toilet questions. Women are wondering, why does it take men so long to poop?
Because
Well-
we're doing other things.
Because we're
besides
avoiding
that.
Whoa, you might need to be a little more specific there, Brett.
Oh yeah, that sounds a little bad there. I don't know, but I take like 20 magazines in there, a phone, maybe a video game. I mean that's private time, especially when you have children. I mean that's like a throne. That is like your rite of passage when you walk in the house and you got to go. Everybody get out of the way. Daddy's got to drop some loads. So just move.
I
Give
just
me my
want to say
books.
that all of that sounded awful.
Give me my books and just go away.
Just listeners understand that there's 4 different individual mindsets here.
And 9 times out of 10, you've got little hands under the door going, "What are you doing? What are you doing? I'm building a rocket. Get out."
You know what I hate is every time I have to use the bathroom
Brett, no
for a
matter
number
what
2.
you say, they sound, every single one of them sounds, they got innuendo in them.
What I hate is every time I need to use the bathroom for a number 2, someone else has to go.
Oh yeah.
It drives me nuts every time. It's like they wait. They're
Well,
like,
you
they're
do
like,
have-
oh, I gotta go, but I'm gonna hold it. I know Dad's gonna go
You
soon.
do have 3 girls in your house.
Yeah. So when I'm on the toilet, I think we're on there for me. I'm on there a long time because this is my time as a busy guy who works a lot and who's a dad, and a husband. And I got a lot of stuff going on. This is my time to really just bring it down. I have my best thoughts and inspirations on the toilet.
You've mentioned that before.
Yeah, I'll go through, Facebook on my phone, which is not a distraction from social interaction because I'm by myself. So I'm just going through. I'm like, oh, look, somebody got a new puppy. Just whatever. Go to, it's my me time.
Right.
That's daddy time.
I think that's how it is for a lot of men.
Yeah.
If they're going to be in the bathroom for a long time, it's probably just because they're unwinding.
Yeah.
For me,
They need a little bit of solace.
For me, I live by myself, so I don't have to unwind from anybody in the bathroom. But a lot of times, if I'm in there for a long time, it's either because I ate a lot and I have to poop a lot.
You leave the door open, don't you, Rob?
I do leave the door open.
I knew it.
It's either because I either ate a lot and I'm just dropping a bunch of loads.
Now the question:
Scratch that.
do you poop with the seat up or down?
I poop with the seat down.
Okay.
Because I put it down. I actually put the seat and the lid down every single time I use the bathroom, no matter where I am. Anyway,
Doesn't that just make the poop spread out instead of dropping and it's all over your cheeks
if you put
afterwards?
it down before you start pooping.
Oh, okay.
However, if I'm in the bathroom for a long time, it's because I'm on my phone and I've lost track of time or I've fallen asleep.
Never fallen asleep, but I've been on the phone for too long, just scrolling Facebook or whatever.
My legs fall asleep on the toilet on a regular basis.
Mine too.
Oh yeah. And then when you try to stand up,
Pins
it's
and needles.
impossible.
Yeah, you know what's
hurts.
weird? You know what's weird for me, and I'm probably the only person that does this. I don't have a lot of discussions with my friends about how we wipe, but now, of course, front to back, I'm not saying that. But as far as how many people?
I have a friend who wipes back to front.
That's stupid.
Yeah.
So anyway, I don't sit down when I wipe. I don't do the side lean.
I don't either.
No, I stand and then squat, which is probably why I got strong legs.
You squat?
I stand and then squat.
I don't. I twist.
And I will wipe till I've used way too much toilet paper because I want to make sure I am clean.
I can't use toilet
I cannot stand the idea of having a dirty butt. Or you know what drives me nuts? And I am sidetracked like crazy right now. But getting out of the shower and then having to doo-doo. Right after a shower. It's like, I just cleaned my bum. Now I got to poop. And I hate it.
Now I got to go take another shower.
Yep.
Or when you have those really bad ones, you just got to get in the shower.
Yeah.
That happens.
What about the ones where you wipe and you wipe and you wipe and it's still there?
It's like wiping
you're
a
wiping
magic marker. Yeah.
I love the poops where you poop and you think it's going to be a mess. And then you wipe and it's nothing. You're like, woo! You got off scot-free. It's like going to work and they send you home early. It's like half the work.
Hey, weren't we going to not talk about poop on this one?
We did it again.
Oh, sorry, I have too much energy drinks in me. Where were we at?
Might have been poop too much.
No, why were on the toilet too long?
Why are you in the bathroom so long?
All right.
But I think we kind of covered that.
Yeah, okay, next question.
Here's a good one. Are all of your exes really crazy?
Oh.
Yeah.
We just went over this.
So I got a story for you. You ready for this one?
Hold on, let
Okay.
me prepare my mind grapes.
Mind grapes.
Go ahead.
All right, so it's my birthday. I believe I was turning 23, and we went out to eat, movies. This was in Colorado, by the way, and traffic there is absolutely insane. And we get in this argument, and we're coming up on a red light, but she's not stopping. She's actually going faster. And she looks at me, and I swear to the good Lord, she looks at me and says, "Give me one reason why I should not press on the brake and kill us both."
What?
Oh my god.
Yes.
Okay, she was crazy then.
So I will admit I was crying. I was like, I don't want to die. No, I don't want to die.
There's
And
my reason. Reason
she
number one.
slams on the brakes at the stoplight, and I get out of the car because my apartment is like 100 yards to the left, and I run my ass to my apartment. She follows me, crying, "I'm sorry, I'm sorry." No, get away from me.
Sounds like you should have put a ring on that
Just
one.
get away from me. Yeah. Oh, I've got some doozies, let me tell you.
I think that's the part of the podcast we should enter in that song. The one that got away. No, 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 no.
No,
Oh,
I
no,
think
it's stuck in
the
my head. Dang it. Edit that out.
no, I think the spirit of the question is seems like, you know, most men, if you talk about their exes, they say they're crazy. You know, especially if they're talking about someone with a new date. It's like, oh yeah, we broke up with my last ex. She was crazy. You know,
There are a few, I won't lie, they were saints. I was just kind of an ass. And I mean, not all exes are crazy, but there are some that belong in a mental institution.
Yeah, I'm sure there is, but I think a lot of it is you couldn't relate and understand each other, so their thought process to you was crazy.
That makes a lot of sense.
Kind of
I
like
can see that,
what I told my wife when we first started dating, because I've had two in my mind right now that I broke up with, and it was a clean breakup, and that rarely happens. A lot of times there's always conflict, but you know, like I told my wife, if when we first started dating, if anything bothers you at all, it's not crazy or stupid. Let me know, because if I don't agree with you, then we're not compatible. You know, and instead of just saying I don't understand this person, they're cuckoo. Why are they even upset about this? That's crazy. No, it's not. If I think so, then we're not compatible, and that's all there is to it. There's no real crazy in that. I mean, there is, like the example of you just gave.
Right.
There is crazy people
Right.
out there. You know,
there
I have-
is crazy people, huh?
yeah.
I have one ex, and she's not crazy. If I were to use a word to describe her, it would be insecure. But that was just because all her previous relationships, she was always told that she was fat and she was not worthy and like all that kind of stuff.
So she was actually insecure, not just the label.
Yeah,
that
she was really
yeah,
insecure.
gotcha.
Let's move on to the next question.
All right.
Unless you have something to say.
Well, I think you guys pretty much hit it. I think it's just, you know, if you end up calling everyone crazy, then it ends up not meaning anything anymore. You know, and as by definition, every woman can't be crazy because that's just the norm now.
Yeah.
Right.
So none of them are crazy.
If everyone's crazy, no one's crazy.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Huh. Do you have a hard time if she is more successful financially?
No.
Not at all. No, because I'm not sexist. So, no, I mean, I love my wife, and we are a team. So if she's successful, that makes her happy, and that makes me happy. Also, if she's successful, that means I get more money. Right? So, win-win. I think it's pretty primitive and prideful to want to be over your wife financially. And
It is incredibly prideful.
yeah. You know, if my wife got a great job, I'm like, woohoo, budget just went up.
Right.
I'm drinking more Red Bulls. Not sponsored by Red Bull. You know, that's my thought.
Yeah, it's prideful and it's egotistical.
You should be proud, you know, for your significant other, no matter what circumstances. I mean, if you're flipping burgers at McDonald's and she's like the CEO of this major company, you should be happy because
You better get her pregnant fast.
Better tie that up.
Well, my point is, like, it shouldn't matter. I mean, you're a team, and hopefully you have the same bank account. So, I mean,
Yeah, with
There you go.
With it popping up so often, I feel like it's something that there are a lot of men that would be upset at, you know.
Oh, yeah.
And
There is. I know
don't,
the type, yeah.
I don't just see, you know, prideful and egotistical,
Yeah, I mean,
but
that's
I
true.
also see insecurity.
Right.
You know, like they've been told their entire life that they have to be the breadwinner, that they have to be number one in the house, and then all of a sudden, you know, they become adults and realize that life doesn't work that way.
And I agree with that 100%. There are cases, and that, I mean, that's the reason for it. It's not because these guys are bad, and like I'm definitely not a supporter of the toxic masculinity, whatever, and patriarchy, whatever crap. There definitely is, men are also victim of the culture where they get taught this, and it actually will help in a lot of cases, but there's certain aspects of it that are just narrow, and yeah, I mean, like, the guy goes and thinking, you need to provide, you need to do this, you need to do this, and when he doesn't, he feels like a failure. And so that blinds him from being able to be proud of his woman, not because he thinks that she's less or she should make less, but because of the fact that he feels like he failed his family because culture has taught him that,
And that's what I was getting at. I think
that's exactly how I feel about it.
Yeah. Alrighty. Next one. What's going through a man's head when a woman is annoyed with them?
Oh my God, is she
always
gonna
annoyed
leave?
with.
What's that?
Sorry, go ahead.
No, I interrupted you. You go ahead.
You go ahead. I insist.
Okay. Well, what's going through my head? Okay, wait a minute.
Yeah,
Ask me the question again.
It's individually
Yeah.
what is going on in your head.
Yeah, what's going through a man's head when a woman is annoyed with him?
Okay, I'll just give an example of me. I am incredibly insecure. I've never been prideful of myself. So if like a woman is getting annoyed with me, I'm wondering, okay, is she going to leave? Did I really make her that mad? Oh God, how do I fix this? Oh, what's going on? I'm that annoying guy in movies. Are you okay? What's wrong? Can you smile? Can I do anything? Yeah. I mean, that's what goes through my
I'm
brain.
really glad you said that because I have a different perspective on things and different way of thinking, and it's good to have that diversity since we're giving a bunch of different male perspectives on things. Because that's awesome because that gives another perspective of why certain guys are thinking that. With me, I'm very different on that. When I'm annoyed, I don't feel. I mean, I can humbly see the things where I went wrong, but I don't attack myself. You know what I mean? I'm very secure in what I do. So I'll run through the thought process. Okay, maybe I was wrong here. I was maybe wrong here. But I was right here. I just stopped my mic thing. All right, there we go. I'm back. I'll also try to thought knocking my pop filter down. But yeah, I'll look at it as something that needs to be addressed, and I will be annoyed until it's fixed. But it is not like I did something wrong enough to where I should feel super bad about it,
right,
or she should feel super bad about it. It's just more of this is the situation, and I'm super annoyed. It needs to be fixed like now, and then I'm aggressive about it. But it's not, I don't put her down, and she doesn't put me down, and I don't feel like I'm put down. And I'm not, not saying that you're put down, but you put yourself down. You know what I mean? Yeah, I don't know. I think that there's a difference in confidence there, and a lot of men, there's a different variation of that because it also goes off of past experiences and relationships.
I am my own worst enemy.
Yeah. And
mentally.
a lot of people are like that, and I think that's great that we have those two different angles here of how we react when we're annoyed.
I think some of these questions are a bit too general.
Yeah.
Yeah, because
so it's hard to
it
answer.
depends on what you're annoyed by and what caused
and
it.
it depends on the man and the woman. I mean, if there's a woman who's never annoyed at anything and all of a sudden she's annoyed at something, then what's going through your head is, wow, I need to pay attention right now.
Right.
Because, something that, she is not normally like this, she's like this now. But if it's a woman that's annoyed at every single thing, what's going through your head is, what's she annoyed about now? What can I do to not even listen to her so I don't have to even hear this because nothing's going to come of it? It's like the boy who cried wolf.
Right.
If there's ever something that you've done that needed to be addressed, it's not going to ever be addressed because she's always annoyed.
Right.
So it really depends on.
That was a way better clarification of.
Yeah, it really depends on the relationship, the individuals.
Yeah, because if it's like if my wife left the seat down again, I'm just kidding. No, if it's something real small, then it's just kind of I don't take it seriously because I think things roll off my shoulders. But when my wife gets really mad to the point where she's about to cry, I'm not annoyed. Something's seriously wrong because she doesn't do that all the time. But I've been with chicks that are super emotional, and I really can't care that much because I'm so used to it and like almost not immune to it, but that's what they do on a regular basis. So I can't take it seriously. If you're always mad and always frustrated, I'm just annoyed at that point and I don't care. So my version of my stance on the annoyed, I just don't give a crap and I just tune it out. I'll play a funny song in my head while they're talking, But like with the relationship I'm in now and some of the other ones I've had, if they're annoyed, it's serious,
Well, from my perspective, it's if I'm with somebody and she's annoyed, I kind of want to find out why so we can fix it.
Right.
I'm the one that always wants to talk. If you're mad, if you're upset, if you're annoyed, whatever it is, I want to talk about it.
See, for me and my wife, we know that we have to take a second to step off and cool down. Because if we try to talk right off the bat, it goes from annoyed to super PO'd. So we have to take time to sit back and then almost in your head, we've had a strategy where we'll argue each other's points in our head to ourselves. So I'll try to argue for her defense in my head to myself, so I can rather strengthen my arguing point or see her point.
Right.
So then, then after we've cooled down and done that, then we come back and discuss it, and I can see, okay, yeah, this is why you felt this way, and this is why, and I can see, and we can negotiate at that point. But just dealing with something annoyed head on for me as a guy, or from this guy's perspective, it doesn't go well.
That should be the first step, though. If you are annoyed or angry, you should take some time apart and try to see it from their point of view.
Yeah, she'll want to talk right off the bat, and I just want to she'll dig, and I'm like, all right, hold on, let me cool down,
right?
Because I it's
that's me. I'm the one who I want to talk immediately, to get it resolved as soon as possible.
And so that shows that it's not a guy girl thing,
right?
That's just a person thing. Then, so I don't know.
Well, I've been told that I'm a girl and emotional, so
well, yeah. So we'll see. I don't believe in that either. It's one of those things where
those two are separate things, though.
Yeah, it's all personality. I don't think that a man should be more feminine or a woman should be more masculine. I think it's you are who you are because of how you've been molded,
right,
through your life, and some people
and who I choose to be.
Like look at Brett's perspective and mine. We are very different,
right,
and that's why I don't. The whole gender thing's fishy. It's iffy because I don't think we should empower gender, but I don't think we should even recognize it. I think it should just be, we're in a relationship and let's fix this problem, kind of thing. Regardless of my jokes that I may say on the side. But sorry that I got sidetracked again. I'm gonna take another drink of my energy drink. Next question.
Next one. Why are men affectionate one moment and then distant the next?
See, all these questions are vague because there's so many reasons for that.
Mm-hmm. I mean, in general, in times that you've done it before,
there could be many reasons for that.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, you could be, loving on whoever, your significant other, and then not feel that you're getting it back. And then you just kind of, well, maybe this is too much. You just kind of step away for a little bit. Or, and I'm not saying inexperience, but I don't know, maybe there's guys out there that, I don't know, get bored. And that's a horrible thing to say, but the way some relationships go today and the way people treat each other, I mean, it happens, But as for me, it's like I said, it's always, well, wait, is this too much? Should I back away? If we go back to the insecurity thing, so.
Well, on that note, I always told my wife, if you ever cheat on me, don't tell me. I'm not going to forgive you. It's not going to go well. So the thing is that, but for me also on that same note, if I see my wife slipping away from me, I become more affectionate to draw her back in. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. So that's so for me, I'm not naturally super affectionate, but I feel like for me, my perspective as this individual guy here, I get more affectionate the more I see him slipping away. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. Bringing her back to the embrace, so that way, because here, let's face it, right? There are many guys in this world that my wife will find attractive, right? But she's a good woman and she's rooted and she won't cheat. There's many women out there that I would see and say, oh, that's an attractive woman. So if you keep it rooted with affection, here and there, not just when they're slipping, which is the main part for me, but that's where she comes in. She also shows affection more regularly because of our relationship. But that affection for me it's brought in right when I need to bring the relationship back together. So I guess mine's like a saving anchor, and hers is more of a feeding it a little at a time. But that's what I think.
As far as my perspective goes, I mean, if you're affectionate one moment and distant the next, it doesn't necessarily mean that you feel anything different about your partner. Yeah. It could just be that, you were affectionate for that moment and then you got distracted by something else or, whatever. But it's not, because I don't necessarily think of affection as something that can be a continuous thing all the time, because you need your own space to do other things. Like we were saying earlier, if you need to use the restroom, I mean, you're not going to be affectionate at that time.
That's not, that's not a group activity.
Exactly.
Well, and also you look at the whole, not to play psychologist here because I'm not one, But the whole nature versus nurture thing, have you ever been around somebody who grew up with a lot of hugs and somebody whose family doesn't hug? Right. You ever notice how more affectionate they are naturally? So there's so many factors, and I agree with you. If you are affectionate less, it doesn't necessarily mean that you're pulling apart.
And I think the question was asking, why do you go back and forth?
Right. Oh, okay, yeah. See, I don't know, like I just told you, that's why I go back and forth. I'll get more affectionate when I feel the relationship slipping, or not necessarily slipping, but we're not as close as we should be in that moment. It'll be like, I haven't hugged my wife in a while, so go up behind her and give her a behind the back hug and show her that I care. For me, it's just an anchoring thing. That's why sometimes I am, sometimes I'm not. So that's why for me,
And I think there's a lot of relationships where the man isn't consciously being affectionate one minute and then distant the next, but it's perceived that way by their partner because, when they come home, they get kisses, they get cuddles and hugs and all that kind of stuff. And then they go and do something else. And the partner's like, well, you were just so affectionate. Why are you doing something else now? And in his head, he's not doing anything else. He still loves her just as much. But it's just the way that she perceives it also.
Right.
And I'm not saying it's wrong that she perceives it differently than what he does.
Well, we're different, so it's not right or wrong. Yeah,
I'm just saying, the question could come from just a difference in perception.
Right, and this goes back to communication. If you do see that happening, you need to bring it up and talk about it. But for me, if I'm affectionate one minute and distant the next, it's probably because I'm tired. That's really the only thing that I can think of. Because I was hanging out with some friends the other day. And they were like, hey, what's wrong with you? I was like, what are you talking about? They were like, there's something wrong with you. And I'm like, I'm totally fine. I don't know what you mean. And I guess my demeanor was different than it normally is. But throughout the night, I ended up being goofy and playful. But when I first got there, I wasn't.
Right.
So but there was nothing wrong. It's like, I guess it just depends on kind of what you were dealing with.
That day.
That day. So it could change. Because, I wasn't dealing with anything. I was literally just laying around my house doing nothing all day.
Right.
And then went over there, and then it took a minute for me to kind of warm up and start goofing around.
I hear that.
Don't ever say that again.
I hear that, dog.
You just said it again.
Believe.
Or were you saying don't say it again?
You said that word another time. I'm going to mute all of
Can't
you.
Can't get very far in life without saying it.
I know.
It's going to become... I thought it was is. You're doing Monty Python, right?
Is it is?
Yeah.
Oh.
Tiggy.
I thought it was it.
Snuck
Could have swore is it.
That was is.
Oh, okay.
I could be wrong, though.
Alrighty. Do you tell your friends that they're whipped?
All the time.
Yep.
Why?
Because it's funny to rib your friends, and that's how guys are, and I'm not ashamed.
There are guys who are whipped.
But and most of the guys we say that to are not actually whipped. We're just ribbing our buddies because that's what we do. And some actually are whipped.
Yeah.
For reals.
But if there will be a friend who their girl will be like, hey, do this for me. And he's like, okay. And then he goes and does it. And then that's when you're like, you're whipped. But
that's not really.
He's being affectionate.
Yeah.
But we're just messing with him.
There are cases where it's true, but a lot of times we're just ribbing because, as a guy, it's what we do. We rib each other. But, to let the women know that listening, that a lot of times we don't really mean it. It's just guy humor. And yes, there is such a thing as guy humor. We don't mean half what we say. That's why a lot of times,
that's just called being sarcastic.
Yeah. We have a question from a female in the room. A real one.
So what does it mean, when you're actually whipped? What's the difference?
Great question, female. No, well, from a guy's perspective, if your wife makes executive decisions and you have no say in it, and the guy's just kind of really submissive without a fair exchange of input, those are the guys we legitimately consider whipped. That's why it's funny when we tell the guys that aren't whipped, they're whipped, because they're like, no! But yeah, those guys that are super dominated by their wives. We all know that one guy.
Right. However, if that's the dynamic that they've agreed upon in their relationship, then it's totally fine.
That is not going to stop the other guys from making fun of it.
Right.
But yeah, of course, yeah. If they're okay with it, it's still good. It's not abuse.
I think what he's actually trying to say is that the guys who would constantly ditch their friends to go do something that their wife has told them to do that could wait, but they don't want to upset her, or constantly prioritizing everything that she says or does over everything else in their lives, regardless of how important it is.
It's not really that's kind of what I'm saying, not really, because I still prioritize.
Okay, that's what I'm trying to say.
Okay, because what I'm trying to say is I still prioritize my wife over my friends, hands down.
Right, but if she was like, "Hey, you need to go get diapers later," and then you leave immediately to go get them, it's like, come on, that could have waited.
Yeah, for me specifically, my belief what whipped is if my wife says, if there's no discussion point, it's just she gives orders and you obey, you know?
Right.
Like, it's just that blunt. Like, that can cover a whole multitude of things, you know? But as far as, like, you know, if your wife's like, I need you at home and you're with your friends, I'm probably going to be like, hey, guys, I got to go. My wife needs me, you know?
Right.
But yeah, I know.
But if she was like, get home now.
Now, because I said so, I'm like, oh, yeah. You know,
Right.
there has to be a fair communication and respect for each other. And without that, then that's when the guy's whipped.
And I think Rob just hit on like one of the most important things. I feel like, you know, it doesn't matter, you know, we're making this discussion and we all have our different views, but what you agree upon in the relationship is okay for that relationship, you know, and looking from the outside, you can't say you two should do this differently, you know, especially if both parties agree on it.
Exactly. Yeah.
You know, and that's why you have so many different types of relationships, and you have some, you know, where the woman's dominant and the man's dominant, where there's no men in the relationship, there's no women in the relationship. You know, there's a whole bunch of different relationships out there, you know, it's polyamorous relationships. And I think whatever you agree upon, and it's something that you need to communicate about, like you said,
Right.
Is okay. And I think what you're trying to say, Mike, is that if there is no discussion, if there is no we both agreed upon it, you know, he just does what he's told, then that's what you're saying is whipped, right?
And that's what we mean when we use the slang as guys. He's whipped. Yes. And like I said, I agree. If the relationships, and not to be redundant, but that's what I was speaking earlier in the conversation, was that, you know, the relationship between the two people is, you know, if the two people agree on something, that's okay. That's a healthy relationship. It's not stupid if both people agree on it. It's not. It's not wrong or whatever as well.
Yeah, because even if it's something that, you know, psychologists or experts will say is unhealthy, if both sides are agreeing to it and they're open about it, then it's like, you know, stay out of their lives. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I mean, it may be unhealthy, but that's the decision and choices that they've made. Mm-hmm. That's just like a fat person. Like, the choices you've made are to eat and get fat. Like, that's not anybody else's place to tell you that, you know, you're doing wrong. Like, yeah, you probably know you're doing wrong, but if those are the choices that you've made, you've decided to do that with your life, so leave them alone.
Mm-hmm. I kind of like that. So, a lot of questions, but I'm going to hit on some things that seem like some pretty big hurdles or roadblocks, things that degrade relationships.
Okay.
You know, and first I think we should go over the things that men dislike about the things that most men have in common, that they're the most common complaints that men have about women in relationships.
Okay.
And we'll just kind of discuss to see what you guys think about it.
Just know that the stuff that he's getting ready to read are not necessarily our opinions. They are stuff that we found.
Yes.
That we are going to discuss. These are discussion topics.
Yeah.
Well, we'll be inserting our opinions, obviously. But,
Right. But
yes.
what he says is not what we believe. These are going to be our discussion topics.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. So, in general, one of the most common complaints about men is constant criticism from their partner.
So you're saying the man criticizes the woman, or either
No
way?
complaints
No.
from the man.
Oh, the woman.
The woman
I
is
gotcha.
constantly criticizing the man in their relationship.
Gotcha.
So,
That's never happened to me. So I really don't have a viewpoint on that. It shouldn't happen. I mean, I think it can beat a man down really, really
It
bad.
really can. Like, for me, I really, really hate to be nagged. It's insulting. You know, and I'm not relating to my wife. I've been in many relationships. I'm, you know, getting older in my life, so I'm not targeting anybody from the past or anything. But when I'm asked to do something over and over again, it drives me nuts. Up the wall. Like, it's like, oh, you didn't do this? It's been since yesterday, and you've asked me 4 times. And you're basically just trying to remind me to do it, and it's insulting. You know,
Right.
It's like if you know, I'll get around to it. You know, like maybe it'll be on my weekend when but just trust me. Give me a leadway period before you ask me again or nag me again about doing it. Hey, you gonna get that done? Oh yeah. Hey, don't forget. One more thing. Don't forget to get that done. Like, holy crap, dude. Like.
That's not just relationships too. That can be at work and everything.
Yeah.
Like if somebody's constantly coming at you,
Yeah.
telling you to do something that you've already said you're going to do.
It's generally annoying for people. Humans should be able to relate that it's annoying. But yes, specifically in a relationship as men,
Yeah.
that's our biggest complaint, because that's one thing that triggers us in a relationship the most, is being nagged.
I don't even think it's just nagging. I mean, constant criticism could also be,
Oh, yeah.
you know, I did the dishes and you put everything away, and then they come up and say, hey, you know, you put that bowl in the wrong spot. And it's like, okay, we'll go move it 2 inches over. I did the dishes, you know?
Right.
You know, I mean, just the nitpicking and the constant, like, this could be better and that could be better and this could be better. And you keep working on it and you keep becoming better, but then they just keep on criticizing. Right. And that, like you said, it can really beat a guy down. It can turn a guy who was confident before and is able to, you know, make decisions in the workplace and all that kind of stuff, make them question themselves so much that they're no longer the same person outside of the home.
Which is ironic because most women are attracted to confident men.
But the constant criticism will tear it down. Yeah. And it tears it down even more in front of that woman. So if this woman is constantly criticizing their husband or spouse or whatever, then that guy eventually is going to have less confidence in front of that woman, and then eventually it's going to bleed through everywhere else.
Right.
You know, one thing I love about my wife is that she will not insult me or disrespect me in front of the guys. She will not. And that's one thing I really admire about her because I've dealt with that in the past. And I hate it. It's like if you got something to say, and then of course if I say something disrespectful back, then it's like, oh,
right.
You know.
Well, that shouldn't happen anyway.
It shouldn't, and that's what I love about the true equal standard in my in this. That's which is why I went Beyonce and put a ring on it because, you know, I love that trait. I love the fact that you respect me enough to not do that. To when we get home and just have that civil discussion, it's very relieving, or it's very It's very comforting to know you have that, to know that I'm not going to be embarrassed when I go. And there's lots of guys that's their main issue because they'll just get humiliated in front of their friends. And everybody's got that friend, and every guy's got that friend that their wife makes them put their head down as they walk out the room, you know, because they embarrassed them, and then you're like, oh man, come on,
right?
Mm-hmm. And you don't want him to slap his wife, but you kind of do. It's like because she just put you down to like you were 2 foot tall, you know what I mean?
Right.
But it's just shameful to see that, and that's one of the biggest that will tear a guy down quicker than because men judge other men based on that's part of our nature, you know. Like, you know, are you a man? Are you walk strongly in life? Do you know? Yeah, it sucks being treated like a child.
Mm-hmm. I was about to say that. So this is like the next one, being talked down to like a child.
Yeah.
Which, I mean, it doesn't necessarily have to be along with the criticism thing.
Right.
You know, it could be, you know, I need you to get milk, and you know it's the blue bottle, right?
Oh my God, yes.
You know, so I mean, it's not necessarily criticism. Being talked down to is similar but different. Yeah. You know, and I think that's another thing that was on the list of the 3 things that, like, I wrote down for guys. You know, being talked down to like a child.
I hate when I'm in an argument and I get a finger pointed at me. It's like,
yeah, it sounds
oh my God,
bad,
I hate
but
it.
I kind of just want to break it.
Yeah.
That's the first thought that comes to my mind is when a finger goes in my face, I'm going to bite it off.
Like, I know you won't hit me, so I'm going to put my finger an inch from your face. It's like, oh, you're right, I won't hit you.
I'm not touching you. I'm not touching you. Yeah, that's one of that goes along with one of my pet peeves is like I will not tolerate being talked down to.
Yeah.
That's just because I believe enough in myself where I won't take it. I know what needs to be done and I know what I need to do or how I need to act. If you talk down to me, then to me that is incredibly disrespectful. I will never do that to somebody else, and if it should not be done back to me. But everybody's got that one thing that just kind of just ends like their sanity. That's one of mine. Is if you talk down to me, I can't handle it.
This is why I can't wait to have the episode with the females on board because this is something that I have a question about. Women, all right. They want a strong, confident man, and a lot of times they won't even say it. Like, but they don't want a boy. They want a man, especially if they're a single mom on the market.
Right.
You know. Yet I've seen many times, and not in all cases, I'm not being discriminative, but I've seen many times where they'll get that strong guy and they'll talk down to him like he's a child. I've seen it. I got a lot of friends that I wonder
why that is.
I don't know. It's almost like they're challenging them because my wife told me that she once dated a guy that was super submissive, you know. And she didn't. And she would say that that's kind of what we worked well. But she never really respected the guy.
Right.
And when she got with me, one of the first arguments we had, we were in front of her mom, and I pulled her outside the garage respectfully, and I told her, I was like, "Look, I'm lucky to be with you, but you are just as lucky to be with me." I was, and I showed her that confidence. I was like, "I'm not going to let you walk on me like that, and you're not going to disrespect me and talk down to me like that." From that point on, our relationship kicked off because the first time she felt she had respect, and yes, a man. She respected me as a man, not as a boy, not as a person, and it gave me that confidence because then she treated me with that respect, and then I treated her with that mutual respect, and it just blossomed.
Right.
But you have to take a stand and not let somebody down talk you like that, because once they have that guy they talk down to, they don't respect him
Right.
at all. You know, it's pathetic, and it just gets worse and worse and worse. And so honestly, I know a lot of people don't like this idea, but you have to actually be masculine. I know, shakes the walls of what's been going on lately, but you have to be masculine. You need to stand up and say, I'm a man, I'm a proud man, and I respect you as a woman, and we're adults in a
Right.
consensual mutual relationship.
And for those who don't know, Hey Girl, she is just as strong as you are.
Yes.
She
Emotionally, mentally, she's better
Yeah.
than I am.
Yeah.
And that's why I respect her so much, because, and this isn't one of those things where my wife's getting my podcast, I'm trying to brag on her. She legitimately is.
Well, I'm bragging on her.
Yeah.
She's an amazing woman.
Yeah, she really is. She can handle a lot more than I can, and that's why our relationship works, because, you know, she relies on me in certain things, and I rely on her more, actually. She's incredible. But yeah, you got to find that woman, and that woman's got to find that man. But remember, this is my lesson on this. Men, do not be afraid to show masculinity and be a man. Women, do not be afraid to be a woman. There's nothing toxic about it or wrong about it. I had to throw that in, I'm sorry. But, you know, be who you are and embrace it and respect each other as that.
You know, that right there is, I think, that should be the basis for a successful relationship, is be who you are.
Exactly.
Don't try to be who you think they want you to be. Don't try to make them into somebody that they're not. Like,
Be how they make you feel.
Right.
Yeah.
Be who you are. If you need to be confident enough to know who you are, to be able to like portray that and be that person. So what drives me nuts about the way that a lot of relationships go is people try to pretend to be someone that they're not, and it ends up like falling apart for a multitude of reasons. For like, maybe you don't want to be that person anymore, or they discover that you're not who you say you are. It's like, if you are the person if you portray yourself as a person who you really are, then you will find the right person who likes you for you. And that will like cement that bond even more to make it like completely strong.
Yeah, don't break down who you are.
Right. And don't compromise.
Yeah.
I mean, unless
You don't have to. There's, 4-point-something billion people on this planet?
7.3 million?
Oh, sorry. Well, I was way off. What was I thinking of?
you
I
say
don't know.
4 billion?
Okay, now I feel
Almost twice that.
I feel like we need to Google this.
You wanna
There's
Google it?
over 7 billion people on the planet.
Okay, yeah, because I don't know.
Wait, hold on. Here's a good one. Alexa, how many people are there on the planet?
The population of the world is about 7,400,000,000.
Dang, I was off.
You were off by 100
100 million.
100 million.
I was off by a 0.1. Anyway, I think what you were saying goes along the same vine as like, be who you are. It's okay to be masculine. It's okay to be feminine. If you're a man, it's okay to be feminine. If you're a woman, it's okay to be masculine. In the end, what you two decide on the relationship is what's going to work for
Right.
you. And you shouldn't let any other societal aspect determine your relationship.
Right. And I've been called feminine, I've been called emotional, and I'm actually proud of that because that's who I am. I don't care what anybody says about me. I show my true feelings, and I believe that helps me communicate. I am a communicator.
And
I'm an encourager, and I think that helps let people in. That's why I'm so able to talk to people on a real level, because I will never be fake.
Yeah, and to be honest, I don't think that you're being feminine. Not that there's anything wrong with it, but I think that men are allowed to be sensitive.
Well, I'm not saying I'm being feminine. I'm saying I've been called feminine.
Oh, right. But yeah, it's one of those things with the societal labels that just drive me nuts.
Right.
It's okay, and to be masculine doesn't mean to be rough and toxic. It means to be a man,
right?
And men can be sensitive. There are many times where I'm vulnerable, where I'm sensitive, and there are many times where I'm strong. And I think that goes along with who I am. And I hate the labeling of
right.
It just drives me up the wall.
Well, it doesn't bother me if people call me that. I know who I am, so it doesn't matter what you call me. I honestly couldn't care less.
No, I don't mean you. I mean, as a society, I think it damages people to use those labels to hurt other people and judge them with it.
Oh yeah.
And I think earlier when you're talking about like why do some women talk down to men, it goes along with the societal norms where we were talking about men have to feel like they're the financial breadwinners because they've been taught that through society and through growing up and all that kind of stuff. And if you look at any rom-com at all, and not the ones that get canceled right away, even though they're doing well, the men are weak and they're stupid. And like the woman is really the one that's in charge of the household. And it's like, go outside of the home and get us money and bring us back some money, and then that just translates into how people talk about men because that's the only thing they see. And so then, a woman's going to approach a man and be like, okay, so all men are stupid. All men aren't able to take care of themselves and women have to take care of them. So that must mean their children.
Yeah. They're so silly and irresponsible. Yeah.
I spoke on this once. I put together a whole entire presentation about this exact topic. What you said about the men on TV being portrayed as being dumb and weak. I did a whole presentation on this. It was called "Don't Be a Man," and because I was initially going to talk about love, and I did a bunch of research and stuff, and I was like, this isn't my topic. So mine is, it was more of like, what makes a man? So my whole thing was don't be a man. And I was saying, the whole point was don't be the type of man that, everybody's telling you to be. So basically the whole point of the message was to be the type of man that you feel like you want to be. Like be strong, be, the provider, if that's who you feel like you need to be. Don't fall into this what the media says you need to be or what the majority of people's perception of what a man should be. Like be the type of man that you want to be. Don't follow anybody else, what the structure that anybody else set up.
Amen.
You brought it back to church.
All right. The last thing seems like a lot of men have problems with is a woman complaining, but not ever doing anything to fix it and not wanting you to do anything to fix it.
That should be in anything that you do. If it's work, if it's relationship, whatever, if you're going to have a criticism or a complaint, you need to have some sort of solution. Or if you don't have a solution, be willing to work with them to come up with a solution. You can't just complain or criticize without any direction.
And of course, we're not saying this is a flaw of women. We're just saying that in a relationship, this is what men complain most about. I'm sure women have similar complaints, but yeah, from a guy's perspective on that particular thing, which was what I forgot, what we were talking about.
People complaining or women complaining about things.
Oh, and not having a solution in mind.
Well, no, not just not having a solution in mind, but even if there was a solution, they're not working towards fixing the problem. They're just complaining about it.
And just to clarify, men do this as well.
Well, yeah. But I mean, it's a more common complaint from men about women than obviously. I mean,
right. Well, I gave mine 2.5 cents.
I don't really have a big opinion on that because it's not really a problem in my relationship. Mm-hmm. But I'm trying to look into the past and it has happened. It's not a big issue for me as a guy. I don't.
You just tone them out when they're complaining.
Yeah, it's pretty much, like, okay, yeah, because there's no solution, so why complain? But
yeah, and I agree with, you should always be working towards a solution. And, and you were talking about the workplace. If you ever bring something to a boss or a superior, you don't just bring a problem to him. Right. You bring a solution to them.
Right. I get told that all the time. I'm like, hey, this thing ain't working. They're like, don't bring me problems, bring me solutions.
Exactly.
And I'm like, oh.
Exactly.
There's no solution to it's cold outside. You know what I mean?
Well, yeah.
There's certain issues that you can complain that you can hear constant complaining and it not be something you can do anything about whatsoever.
Yeah, but this person at work keeps saying this to me. It's like, avoid that person.
Do you want me to
I don't want you to tell them. I want you to listen. And it's like,
no, the correct response is, oh, no, she didn't.
Exactly. Well, actually, that is the correct response. But what most women want would just be like, I can't believe she would do that to you.
Right.
That's actually what most
confirmation that you're there to listen and you agree with what's going on within you side of them.
My first response to that would be like, so what have you done to correct it?
Yeah. But as a guy, I'm like, okay, well, do you want me to talk to them? No. What do you want me to do?
They just mainly
I've heard this 3 times this week. What do you want me to do?
Yeah,
they just want you to listen.
Yeah, that's really what it comes down to, and that's just the difference in the mentality.
Right,
and that's what makes relationships so great. And towards the end of this podcast, I'd like to put that out there is that we are so different, and that's what's great is that you make yourself a better person by recognizing how different we are and working together to understand each other. You become through age and through the experience and the relationship that you have together, you literally grow spirit, in your mentality, because you learn to think about and get through obstacles that are so different than how you think. That's what makes, marriage so great.
Right. And
relationship so great.
That's why when you find somebody who is different than you, they have strengths that are your weakness, and you have strengths that are their weakness.
Right.
So that's why it works, and you complete each other that way. Bringing it back to Jerry Maguire, you complete each other that way, that it just makes for a stronger bond. It makes a great relationship.
Yeah, and some people, I don't know, I think we kind of like the challenge. I mean, could you imagine a relationship where there's no issues? Could you imagine how stagnant? There'd be no passion. You have to have that. You have to have passion. You have to have conflict. It's kind of like if you had a world that was all good, that'd be a boring world. If you lived forever,
well, you would have nothing to compare the good to.
Yeah, exactly. There'd be no scale to bring it up to. I think that it's great. Like, I think we're closer because we have conflict, and then we get through it.
Right.
We overcome it.
A little off topic, but it would be better on the general relationship one, and we're gonna do later. But they see in more first world countries there's more suicide than in third world countries, because struggling is part of the human experience. And
Right.
if you're not struggling, then you end up, trying to create your own struggles. And there's a lot of people who's like, why are they complaining about that? Have they never lived through anything? It's like, they really haven't lived through anything. They live in, a really wealthy country,
Right.
and they really just haven't been through anything.
I've actually heard that before, where people will create problems just so they can have something to complain about.
Yeah, because that's part of the human experience. You have to feel like you have struggled in order to obtain what you have.
Yeah, and I almost feel like, in my opinion, I feel like the reason why modern society relationships don't last as long is, there's no conflict. If I don't like you, I'll swipe left to the next person's profile picture. Do you know what I mean? There's no
Tinder
you're not-
society.
Yeah, you're not forced to endure together. It's like, and then everyone around you is in that same culture, so they support it. Like, oh yeah, get out of that relationship. And there's no one says you don't have that societal influence when it says work it out.
Yeah, there's no growth.
Yeah, they don't try to fix it.
If you're
They
not
just wanna
happy,
live
get
it.
out. Like, well, why are you not happy? Let's get to the root of it, because you're never going to get through a single relationship if you don't ever deal with conflict.
That goes back to communication.
Yeah. You're never learning those skills that you should have to endure and have a healthy relationship. And look at the divorce right now. It's awful. Look at people, how the rotating door of relationships, just in general, that they suck. Like, that person's selfish. Yeah, well, apparently we all are now. It's kind of...
Alrighty, so let's move on to some of the complaints that women have generally about what men do.
See if we can justify it.
Yeah,
Not
just talk about, like, if you've done that and why you've done that and that kind of thing.
Okay.
Seemed like the biggest one was stonewalling. You guys know what that means?
Let's go ahead and describe that, or
Alrighty, so
define that.
like if you're in an argument, and normally you could be fighting back and forth or whatever, and stonewalling would be where you just kind of shut down. You don't really say much.
Ah, crap, I do that.
Don't show emotion. You don't show anger. You don't show happiness. You're just completely emotionless. You don't really say anything. It's just yeah, just waiting for the argument to be over. And that seems to be one of the biggest complaints that women have about men in relationships.
That's true. I do that.
Same here.
Is
Yeah.
it just like you don't feel like talking about whatever's going on?
It's not. It can be interpreted as I don't care, but that's not it. It's that I can't fix in this moment, so I don't want to hear about it until I find a solution. It's like I got the message, and now I'm like, now you're just expressing yourself emotionally. Now, am I wrong? Heck yeah, I'm wrong. But it's just like, that's how I did, because I can't in the middle of it go, time out. You're wasting your time. I'll figure it out. You can't do that. It's So what that's why I do it. And I do it all the time, and it sucks, and I need to work on that.
The only time I've ever done anything like that is if I'm hurt. I won't shut down if we're in a discussion or anything like that. But if you've done something that hurts me, I just want to be alone.
I did try to walk off.
I don't want to talk to anybody. I just want to like be by myself. There are very few people who I will go to if I'm hurt. But that's because we have built an incredible level of trust. But if my significant other hurt me, then they would be the person that I would normally go to. But if they've hurt me, then I don't have anybody. So I need that space. That's the only time I've ever done that. But I won't ever answer with like, yep. I won't be that short. I'll be like, I need some time. Or if I'll still be conversational if I have to be, but I want that space.
I want the space, but I am rude with it. I'm like,
Yeah.
You know? And I'm like half listening.
I can't be rude. That's just not in me.
It's not a daily thing, but I have done that. I am guilty of that.
It's normally stonewalling's normally talking about arguments and how men shut down. So
About what was it?
of how men shut down
During arguments.
And I've done that. Yeah, I'm guilty.
Yeah.
I've walked away many times, and it's not just me being a jerk. It's just, I don't want to hear it. I know what's going on. Don't keep nagging me about it. I already feel bad enough for it. I'm just going to walk away.
I want a resolution. That's my whole thing.
But I mean, like, if it's a really bad argument and I want to avoid more confrontation, I just kind of shut down because I don't want to like build up my temper to make it worse.
Yeah, and like I said before, I step off, right? And she knows that she knows it's better for relationships. So like back when I used to smoke, I would step out to the garage, which is my man cave, and I would smoke and put my thoughts together, like I said, and use that strategy I was discussing earlier.
Right.
And then I would come back in like, all right, look, because it's a lot better than you just trying to discuss me when I'm already lit. When I just found out this information, I'm already on fire. I shut down to protect her, because if I blow up, it's ugly,
Right.
and then the fight's ugly. No one's getting anywhere. So that's kind of why I do it, but I'm also being rude because I should just discuss, hey, this is, part of my problem with communication. And I can see why women are annoyed with it as well, because I'm like, what I should do is say, I'm really annoyed right now or really mad. Back to the communication thing. I need to step up and cool down so I can give you a better solution. And that's what I should do. So maybe.
That was like a perfect answer right there.
Yeah, for me, I've only become a better communicator over the last few years.
Same here. Yeah.
And early on in relationships, in my younger years, I didn't realize I was doing it. I just didn't realize that was the thing that I was doing, And even when I was called out for it, I was like, I don't know what you're talking about, And it took me a long time to get over the fact that I wasn't communicating. And looking back, trying to figure out why I did that, when I did that. Part of it was just that, I wasn't thinking about what I was thinking about, which is a very important thing, a very important skill to have. And looking back on it, the reasons that I did it in the past was it felt like, you were saying you wanted a resolution, right, Rob?
Right.
If I ever felt like what we're talking about is never going to have a resolution, then there's no reason to keep on talking about it.
Right.
And so I would just shut down. It's like, okay, in my head, the conversation's over because it's just going to go around in circles. It's just going to be the same thing over and over and over for hours. And it ended up, I had a relationship where it would be hours anyway with me shut down. I'd be shut down for hours. And, there wouldn't be a resolution at the end of it. And it was because, I didn't know how to communicate what I was thinking. And if I did communicate what I was thinking, it felt like it was falling on deaf ears. Because a lot of times in the moment when you're fighting, you do need to step back. And if you're with someone who doesn't ever want to step back, who wants to just keep on at it until you admit they're right, even if you don't think they're right,
Falling into each room.
falling into each room, yeah. And then it's going to just end up shutting down because there's no more reason to continue fighting because I'll just be angry, you'll be angry, and in the end, instead of if you shut down, then in the end you can go away, with a lot less stress, almost stress-free when the conversation's over.
Right.
She'll still be angry, and then if you did argue with them, then you're both going to be angry,
Right.
And I mean, I guess it's a pretty selfish thing to do, because it leaves the woman feeling left high and dry, where they didn't feel like there was any resolution.
Right.
Because a guy who's shut down, who's stonewalling, he's not going to say, okay, you're right in the end or anything like that. And if he does, it's going to be really sarcastic and they're going to know it's sarcastic and not genuine.
Or you're just trying to humor him to get it over with.
Exactly.
And even if you feel like there's not going to be a resolution, it's a good idea to say at least say that. Say I don't feel like there's going to be a resolution, so we should just drop it.
Yeah.
And that kind of puts some closure on it. I think the main problem with a lot of those arguments is that there's no closure.
Mm-hmm. But I mean, there are also relationships where you can say, I don't think there's going to be any resolution. Maybe we should step back and talk about it later.
Right.
Where
in the heat of the moment, though, that doesn't work. So what you need to do is, like I said, in my opinion, you need to say, let's step off for a second, think about it. Then you can come back and say that same thing once you've cooled down. Because otherwise, it's like, no, you're not. No, we're not getting out of that easy. So you have to really to just establish that fair safety zone. Okay, let's step off. Let's both think. I want to think how I can meet you halfway, and then go to your man cave or whatever.
Well, I mean,
and then let her go do whatever she does to,
What I'm saying is that
Her man cave.
what I'm saying is that some women can shut a man down. Like, he can get it to the point where it doesn't matter who the man is, he's going to stonewall.
I've done
Because-
it. Yeah, I know. Yeah.
Because if he's like, I need to step back, we can talk about this in a minute, and she doesn't step back, and then, it's like, hey, I really need a little bit of space. Let's talk about this in like 5 minutes. And can I just like walk around the house a couple of times? And she doesn't back off, and she follows you around the house a couple of times.
I had a brother who
You
used
can
to do that.
eventually get any guy to stonewall.
Right. Yeah,
So,
because
I mean-
he won't want to talk. It's like you just.
I feel like a lot of guys out there, and maybe I'm wrong, don't realize they're stonewalling, because I feel like a lot of people just don't think about what they're doing
Right.
and when they're doing it. And if a guy is stonewalling, because for these complaints, I kind of want to, talk about a resolution.
Okay.
But I feel like a woman can shut a guy down, and if he ever does stonewall, it's good to back off for a while. It's good to revisit the issue later, after he's had a break.
Right. I used to have I had a brother who used to he would constantly argue, and he would follow one of my other brothers around constantly, and like you wouldn't let him leave the room. Like he wanted to take a break and go stop with the argument, go take a break so it didn't escalate. But he would continually follow him around the house, nagging him over and over and over again until my brother 1 was the one nagging, brother 2 was the one that was trying to get away. So brother 1 would follow him around, and then brother 2 would just like finally just beat the crap out of him until he couldn't follow him anymore. So I can see how that could escalate to that point. But I have experience with that, like with just my siblings.
Well, sometimes it's to
dealing
get
with
that
that kind of stuff.
Sorry, sometimes it's to get that reaction. Like, I've been in a relationship where the woman has literally hit me with not just her fist, but,
Object.
the objects. And I still, in that moment, knowing that I am physically superior, that I could crush her with the 100-pound weight difference, still looked at her and stonewalled naturally as a defense mechanism and to protect her, because I'm getting hit and I'm looking at her and she wants a reaction. It's like, you really want a reaction from me? You know what I mean?
Right.
I'm 220 pounds and I used to box. You want me to react to your violence? So there's certain times of stonewall. I think it's, it's kind of defense mechanism, because I could have ended her life like this and she couldn't have done a damn thing about it. And she initiated it. So I stonewalled to protect her and myself, because let's face it, we're not the same. We're very different. I have all, and so men do this sometimes to protect the situation naturally, because you can't pick up a battle axe and destroy the situation. This is your wife or your girlfriend,
Right.
So, your hormones are rising and everything. And sometimes, like, that's another example when you're stonewalling, and it kind of why we do it naturally, just to protect the situation, her included, and yourself, so you don't go to prison, because they're going to see it as you're the aggressor, even though you just got hit 30 times with a
Right.
freaking broomstick or a baseball bat.
Well, this is probably really off topic, but what is going through somebody's head when they're doing that? When they're constantly attacking somebody verbally or physically just to get a reaction? Like, what is the purpose?
I don't get it, because I myself wondered, why would you hit me? Like, why? What do you want out of this?
Yeah,
Like,
that's my question.
Do you want me to go, oh, you know what? Great hit on that one. That was the one that broke the straw, and now I see your point. I agree with you now. No. I'm like, you're crazy, and I definitely don't agree with you now even more. Like, you're just proving that you are nuts and I was in the right. Because that kind of violence doesn't work,
Right.
And then once again, stonewall, boom, But that's my thoughts on that. I had to add that in there because it's more than just because of the nagging. Like, there's a lot of reasons out there that.
I've always been told, when stuff like that happens, when there's violence coming at you and you shut down, I've always been told once it's all over, well, it was all set out of the heat of the moment.
Yeah.
We say things we don't mean. We do things we don't mean. I'm like, really? Because you just threw me over the crib just now, like stuff like that. Like, and not literally, but what I'm saying is, people do get violent and men shut down. I agree, just to protect the situation.
Yeah.
So.
And I've seen women do it too. I've seen them just like, it's like their soul's gone.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And when guys do it, it's just kind of like, it's less accepted. It's like, oh, you can't be a victim. You're a guy.
Right.
So.
It's so disheartening when you see that too, though. Like whenever somebody shuts down and you see that their soul has gone.
Yeah.
It's like that person is completely broken.
Yeah. Let's once again, this brings me back to my thing. I have a big problem with the whole social issue of that all this victimization of women, because look across the board, it's both. There are women in bad situations suffering, and there are men in bad situations, but no one highlights the men at all. So we just sit there and take it and take it and take it. And I can give 100 examples, and Jay Will over there knows I've discussed it many times, venting, where men are just given the shaft, figuratively speaking. And women too, So I think that we need to focus on, instead of making it a man-woman thing, we need to focus on the healthiness. And like I said, take the gender out of it, because there's so many times I could see where it goes. That's why I keep inserting it goes both ways.
Yeah, anything that we say about this kind of stuff can go either direction.
The toxicness doesn't come from the gender; it comes from the person,
the individual. Yeah. Go ahead.
As far as what I was saying before about suicide rates being higher in first world countries,
right?
The suicide rates are actually 3.5 times more likely that a man will kill himself than a woman.
That's nuts.
And I think a lot of it spawns from the fact that, men are told, you should be in charge, and, you have all this, privilege and all these other things that you should already be ahead. And for those men who, later in life, they're not ahead already, or they haven't saved, because it's actually, it's older men that commit suicide more often than younger men,
right.
But it's also younger men commit suicide more often than younger women also.
Okay. You think it's because there's too much responsibility put on them? Is that why?
Well,
or too much expected of them?
Yeah, it's too much expected. It's like, society's already told you that you should be the breadwinner, and that, you should have saved for retirement and done all these things. And when men are met with that expectation and then they don't meet it, because women are told, if you're not making it, then that means that there's some type of sexism, and, it's not your fault, and what ends up happening is that, women don't have to take that responsibility of, I didn't do something right. It was somebody else's fault. And with men, they either crack under the pressure, or they say, it was my fault that I didn't succeed. So how do I do better? Then they become better. And then there's more male CEOs of every company than female CEOs, because all the men have said, it's my responsibility to do better. And, there's been so many women out there that have been like, well, it's not my responsibility. It's his responsibility to stop being sexist.
Okay.
So, it creates a higher suicide rate, but it also creates men more successful in business. And then, it just keeps, repeating that narrative that men are getting paid more,
Well, you look at the statistics of what men and what degrees that men and women go for, and men go for those degrees in business more often. And then, once again, and then when the man succeeds, oh, look at that statistic. He's sexist. And when the woman there's less women in there, like, oh, well, that's because the man's failed society once again. So either way, you can't win. You're sexist, or if you're sexist if you succeed, and you're a failure if you don't. It's kind of a lose-lose for. No one's like, good job, you made it.
Right.
Mm-hmm. And most of that stuff's garbage anyway. Most men aren't sexist. Not in modern day. I'm not, but I've been called sexist 1,000 times just for disagreeing with that agenda. It's like,
I've never been called sexist, but that's because I don't voice my opinion on those things.
Yeah.
Now going back to the things that women don't like that men do. Let's see. Were we talking about stonewalling still on that one? I think we were. We never moved on from that.
Let's move on from it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, we got sidetracked from that.
Yeah. So another thing that seems to be a common problem is men ordering women around. So that goes along the same line as what we were just talking about.
Right.
There are men that do it, just like there's women that do it. It's just we just name it differently. We were just talking about how women do it. And they talk down to men and treat them like boys. And it's the same thing. There are men that do it to women, and
right.
we just react differently.
Yeah, I think we touched on it. I think we touched on it earlier. Just like women shouldn't be ordering men around and having no discussion, men shouldn't be ordering women around and having no discussion.
Nobody should be ordering anybody around.
Exactly. It should be, both parties are okay with what's going on.
Right. Yeah, I know couples that do that. One of them is the domineering one that tells the other one, you need to do this, and is always talking down to him. And it's unhealthy, and it bothers me, but it's not my place to say anything.
Mm-hmm. And
as much as I want to.
Another one is being affectionate at home, and then when you get out in public or he's around his friends, will talk down to and be mean to his significant other.
I think that's more along the lines of trying to, what is it? I know there's a word for it, but I can't think of what it is. It's like you're berating them to make yourself look better. Mm-hmm. And you're trying to look cool in front of your friends.
Which a lot of guys don't think that looks cool. It makes them look like a douche.
That was going to be my next point. Is like if you have friends that think that that's a good thing, then you need better friends.
Once again, it's individual perspective.
Right.
Yeah, I've seen men do it, but there's usually that one guy that's doing that, and it's like, see that? I can order my wife around. Why don't you have yours under control? Kind of stuff.
And he's usually seen as the douchebag.
And he's usually seen as the douchebag.
Right.
Yeah.
In every party, you're going to witness it. You're going to see it. So yes, all women have to deal with it, but more men think it's wrong than think it's right.
Right.
Yeah. You're going to notice the guy that does it, and that's going to be the story, and that group, not the 10 guys around him that don't agree with it, because they're not going to say anything because it's not their business. And
it's the vocal minority.
Yeah, exactly.
All right, another one is spending too much time on either video games or watching sports or just looking at your phone instead of engaging with them at home.
Man, I do agree with that. I see that's a lot of problem with men these days, and I'll agree with that. I see a lot of my friends, they'll be playing phone games and stuff. Just like I was saying with the girls on the social media, I have a lot of guys that do the counter version of that, where they're on their phones playing these games and not paying attention to their wife. And then that I do see that being a problem. I don't have that really issue, but I do see it a lot here and there.
Well, I definitely had that issue. Yeah. That was one thing that I noticed about myself, and there's times where I fall into it, and once I'm called out on it, I'm like, oh man,
Right.
So that's one of those things where I'm not 100% sure why,
It's entertaining, It's like most addictions and things that pull our time. But so that's why the whole point of this podcast is to kind of not really point out a right or wrong, but point out the things that we can change and that they can change. We're going to see the things that annoy both sides,
right.
Like the questions he got from researching what bother men and women, and giving our perspectives as guys, our understanding, and the female listeners, they can hear it and go, oh, that's why they think that way. And it kind of helps them understand us, just like when we have the women on later, and will help us understand them. It's to give a fair chance. It's not really like with the phone thing, with the guys playing on the phones. You're not to be chastised for it. It's just this helps you recognize it. That's an issue. That can be an issue relationship. And then you may hear that and go, you know what, maybe I should take a little time off and go give my wife a hug and go cuddle and watch a movie with her stare at the same screen, basically, if you're going to stare at a screen.
What you're saying got me thinking. It's I think the main issue with why they're staring at their phones is because they've become complacent. Like they're so used to being around each other. It's like, I've seen you before. So then they're just like, you get bored and you want some kind of entertainment, and our go-to entertainment is our phones.
Yeah, it's more interesting than her nagging. Hello, just kidding.
You're totally going to get beat up when she listens to this.
No, that's my humor. But no, realistically, it is true. And these phones are just too entertaining. Like, you just picked up your phone right now and you're looking at it, and we're in a podcast. That should show you where society is reliant on looking on our phones. It's like,
well, in this instance, it's communicating with someone who is sitting next to me that I can't talk to because we're having a podcast.
Right.
That's kind of like what I said earlier. We live in a digital world, and it's sad, but it takes priority for a lot of people.
Rob. Bird.
Oh, I'm sorry, I wasn't listening.
I feel like it's what you were saying earlier about entertainment.
Yeah.
I feel like we're so used to being entertained at all times, and people don't take time out to not be entertained.
Yeah.
And so if they're not being entertained, they don't necessarily want to interact with who's around them, because they're not nearly as entertaining as, finding that next funny thing,
right.
or, political jab that you can jab at your opponents or anything like that.
Right. I find myself doing that at work, like because it's so monotonous. I'm just like, I try not to get on my phone while I'm at work. Well, I can't say that honestly, but sometimes I try not to get on my phone when I'm at work. But I find myself like going back to it because I want that stimulus that I'm not getting from what I'm doing at work.
Yeah, stimulates your brain in that way. That's kind of feels it's refreshing and releases that dopamine or whatever.
Right.
Or
No,
endorphins. You know what? Podcast challenge. We should start doing podcast challenges on the episodes. On this episode, your podcast challenge is whoever you are, whoever you're in a relationship with, set a date this weekend or whenever you're next available, and you both are going to hang out for 24 hours with no phone.
Dude, that's
like you can answer phone calls. You can answer phone calls. Hold on, but no Facebook, no social media, nothing. Only answering phone calls. We're talking just like it would be back in the rotary days. You can have calls, but you stay off social media and you actually interact solely with the person you're with.
Don't use it as a filler.
Yeah,
to fill your day.
Really get to spend that time and pay attention to the person you're with that whole day. That's your challenge, listeners.
I agree with that. And what I want you to comment, if you're on the website, go to the website and comment on this episode and let us know what you did and how it worked.
Yeah.
And no texting. Texting is not a phone call. Phone calls only.
Yeah, don't message us. Call us. Okay.
No. He's talking about.
And Rob's number is.
No, when you're spending
talking
time
about when
with
they
each
don't have
other,
phone.
I know.
just phone calls only. No text messages. No nothing.
Yeah, during the research for this one, I have a whole bunch of general how people interact with each other, as far as our generation and other things. And that's actually one thing that it seems younger millennials have problems with is talking on the phone.
Yeah,
Like
a lot of
they're
people
gonna
they don't.
text, they're
They're
not gonna
like
call.
either text me or either text me or what is it? There was something about
Text me to see if you can call.
yeah. There's that, but I don't know. That's essentially what I was going to say.
And the last thing that I have here about the things that, majority or, a huge portion of women complain about men is laziness around the house. Because especially with dual income families, the men go to work and then the women go to work, but the women also drop off the kids at school.
Right.
And then they come home.
Typically.
Yeah.
Sometimes.
Yeah, I see some different
then they
brands,
come. Then they come home. I mean, I'm not saying this is how it is in your relationship. I'm saying this is how it is in an overwhelming amount of relationships, enough that it's a common problem. Okay. That both the men and women come home after a long day of work, and then the woman cooks and cleans and does the laundry, and the guy is watching sports.
Well, it's just not a balanced relationship. It's not meeting halfway. And I think
Do you think that has to do with like what's expected of them? Maybe that's why.
I think that is. Yeah.
Maybe that's why the woman, the majority of the women are actually doing things around the house when the men are just sitting around watching TV.
yeah, but that guy should see that, and that should bother him.
But if it's ingrained in your head for so long that women take care of the house, then there's a lot of men who, I feel like most people don't realize what they're doing or why they're doing it. They don't sit back and think, this is how I run my life. This is what I do. Most people just go with the flow, and they're just kind of like a leaf being blown around on the wind. And there are a few people that actually are able to break out of that. And I think a lot of those relationships, the man just goes home and sits down and does nothing because that's what's been ingrained. That's what men do. And that's another negative
That's
thing
what
about
his dad did, and that's what his dad did.
And that's another negative thing about the rom-coms.
Yeah.
Is they're going to see the guy just sits on the couch all day long, and the woman's the one that's doing everything. And
She's the brains always.
or
in those
sitcoms,
shows.
not rom-coms.
Yeah.
The sitcom shows.
Yeah, the woman's always the brains. Actually, the kids are smarter than the dad. The dad's an idiot in most of these shows.
But the woman's doing all the work, and the guy's not doing anything. So I mean, when you see. My dad always sat around, and his dad always sat around, and on TV, the dad always sits around. Then they're just going to do what they've been taught, what they're ingrained with.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. I would argue on how common it is in modern day, but I do know it happens. But I would say, mainly just because I know my circle of people, but I don't see that very often. But I'm sure it happens. So, I mean, I think it'd be unfair without actual statistics, which I don't know how you would get that. How common that is.
There actually are statistics on it, and I wish I...
How do they call each household and be like, hey, how often does...
The same way that they do group studies and statistics. And
Oh, so they're not actually...
you can get pretty accurate with those.
Yeah.
And especially if...
Agree to disagree. I mean, you can go in the South and get different family dynamics than you would get in the West Coast or the East Coast.
Well, yeah, but you'd have to do it like over the whole entire
yeah.
U.S.
Yeah.
You'd have to get a good
A
sample.
large number because America is made up of so many different cultures and just each region is so different, the dynamic. So I don't know. I mean, to be fair, not knowing actually where we're at now, like myself, I would say it does happen, but I don't think it's a huge issue. And I think that guys that do that are douchebags, you know, from my perspective. But I wouldn't say it's a huge issue. I mean,
I feel like
I don't see it very often.
If the woman has called the guy out, like, hey, we both work, and then I come home and do everything, and you sit around, and then he continues to sit around, you know, and she says, hey, you know, we talked about this last week, and he continues to sit around, definitely douchebag.
Right.
You know?
Yeah.
But like I was saying before, most people don't know what they're doing, so I'm not just going to give a blanket statement of everybody who's not conscious about their decisions is a douchebag. You know, because I feel like there's a lot of things that people do and they don't know why they're doing it.
Yeah.
And
fair.
You know, I feel like people need more time to grow up, more maturity, where, you know, people just don't get the same type of maturity that they used to. And actually, you know what? I don't even think it was that way in the past. I think there's just very few individuals that decide that they're going to take control of their life and figure out what they're doing.
Right.
I think most people are just going with the flow.
Because even back then, men also worked a lot harder, and now they don't work nearly as hard as they used to, as far as the general of men, because how the lifestyle was in America, as far as
you mean hours worked
before technology, and then you move on now, and you could say it's a runoff on that. But I also think that where we came so far, that there is that for sure. But I wouldn't go as far as to say most. I don't think that'd be fair. I would say that it does exist, and I think that if I wouldn't use the aware kind of thing. I think that you're a douche if you can watch your wife do more than you do, and you say that's her role, and you just kind of sit in your butt.
Yeah, I agree with that.
And I think that most guys, I don't think it's a subconscious, conscious thing. I think that, you know, it's just I don't know. I've seen a lot of lazy women that boss their men or their husbands around. I mean, I won't say there, but we both know a few. And I've seen it a few times with guys. Both, I just don't see it often in general. I don't know. I don't think most marriages are that way. Mm-hmm. There's always one lazy person here and there, but I don't think it's super common.
I wouldn't know. I haven't done the census myself.
Yes, same here. That's why I said I don't know. I just think it is douchey to be able to, regardless of whatever subconscious, whatnot, or what have you. I think that if you watch somebody do stuff and you're working the same hours, you're a douchebag.
Yeah, I agree.
As far as romantic relationships, that's about all I've got. But I think we hit on it several times that everybody's going to be different, and communication is key.
Right.
And what you two agree with, or 3 or 4, or whatever your relationship is.
Right.
You know, you don't have to go straight BDSM and write out a contract. But I feel like, you know, communication, so everybody knows what's going on and everybody agrees with what's going on, is the best way to run a relationship.
Right.
Yeah, I agree.
And if you're uncomfortable with something that's happening, then
speak up.
Yeah, talk to him about it, or talk to her about it. Either way,
right?
You know.
And I want to reiterate that whenever we do make these statements, we are not including everyone. It's not saying all people are this way, all men are this way, all women are this way. It's based on a
few guys discussing what we've noticed and our opinions of it from the perspective of guys.
Exactly. Yeah, finish my sentence for me.
And our experiences.
Mm-hmm. Right. And the opinions that we gave were based on, we wanted it to be for you to understand from different perspectives how we each individually feel, to give you like even just a small sample of the different types of men and how we feel about those certain types of things.
Yeah, and I think we need to get away with calling people evil or names and labels just because they view things differently. Mm-hmm. Like, my wife sees things the way I do, which is why we're compatible. You know, I could have, you know, there's a lot of women that could be compatible with another guy in this room, and they think that person is perfect, and I think that person's nuts. Or maybe not nuts, but I think that person's ideas don't align with me. They don't work.
You've said that to me specifically.
Yeah. Yeah. But, you know, it's just one of those things with relationships that, you know, I really don't like the whole, which we covered that in closing. We covered that earlier. So in closing, I'd say I really don't like the whole labeling, name calling, saying because of this person's gender, because of this, we are different, we think different, but that's what makes us great, and that's what makes it such a beautiful challenge to come together and work as a society and in relationships. So, you know, just there's nothing toxic about it, nothing sucks about the other side. Let's just work together. Let's admire the greatness. And if you're not compatible, you're just not compatible. Move on. Hopefully, we gave some good examples of thought processes, and you agree with one and not the other. You know, back and forth, we've had some differences and some similarities, but you know, let's take some of these ideas and concepts if you're listening and learn from it if you can. If not, then it's useless. Whatever. Who cares?
Right.
enough men are alike enough that they seem to make the same mistakes, and enough women are alike enough to, agree that, yeah, that is something that we don't like. So, I mean, it's not necessarily that we're all 100% different, but, we are all different. And so if, you approach a relationship, oh, well, men like this, and you do that for him, and he's not happy about it, then that doesn't necessarily mean that you did anything wrong. It just means that you need to communicate with what he actually likes. Or, if you say, he's doing that and he means this by it, and it's like, he might just not even know what he's doing. He might not even thought about it. And if you talk to him about it, he'll be like, oh, I didn't realize you didn't like that. I'll do this instead. So,
Yeah.
I mean, in the end, that's the big reason why you can't have, laws governing everybody or having, some state of mind govern everybody, is because everybody's so vastly different that, you need to know what's good for you. And then when you enter into a relationship, you need to communicate with that person. And so you both understand the things that are going to happen in that relationship and are both okay with what's going to happen in that relationship.
Yeah.
Right. And I think all of that summed it up very well. So we're going to go ahead and close this one down because it's getting fairly long. So make sure you comment on this podcast on the website. Leave us some comments. Let us know what you think. Talk to us about it. We want to talk to you about it. Also, make sure you check us out on iTunes. Check us out at justplainnonsense.ninja. Check out our store where you can buy t-shirts and hoodies and coffee mugs and all that good stuff. Stickers.
Amen.
Put our merchandise and our little cartoon faces all over your stuff. Put it everywhere.
Yeah. Put me all over your body.
All right. We're getting out of here. I'll see you later.
All right. Peace.
Bye.
Bye.